What is up, everybody? Welcome to Pub Sports Radio and welcome to Stat Diggers. We're going to dive very deep into UFC 272, and we have an absolute banger of a card. We have Jorge Masvidal going against Colby Covington. The rivalry we're all wanting to see. Can't talk, but yeah, looking forward to that. And then also we have some fun fights on the card. I think I was talking to Weezy, like there's only one bad fight on the card, and we'll talk about which one that is. But other than that, I think we have 12 really good fights. So as always, I'm with Weezy, the man behind the stats. Weezy, what is up? You looking forward to this card?
I was waking up this morning thinking, man, I love my job. This is awesome, dude. UFC 272 is going to be such a good card from top to bottom. The main card is sick. There are so many great prospects on the prelims. There are so many bangers on this card. It's pretty much fantastic all the way up and down. You mentioned one bad fight, but that fight is going to be so spectacularly bad that it might be the best fight on the card. There's really no breaks on this card at all. And I can't wait to break down every single fight with you guys. We're in for a treat this weekend.
Yeah, you know what fight Negan Mariana, Kennedy, and Nzechukwu reminds me of? The fight last night with Priscilla Ketchup beating and Jeon Kim. It was so bad, so awful that it was good. It was entertaining. It was I don't know what I watched, but it was fun. And I think this card will be fun as well.
Yeah, because we were talking about that. We were saying like something's got to break, right? Because Priscilla Cachoeira has 40% striking defense and blocks punches with her face, but Jeon Kim couldn't hit water if she fell out of a boat. So something had to happen. And this is like the same thing. You got Negan Mariana, who's got like a 29% striking defense, and Kennedy, who just sits there with his arms in front of his face and doesn't throw punches. It's going to be spectacularly bad. I can't wait for that fight. Can't wait for all these fights, man. Can't wait to break it down with you guys tonight.
Yeah, for sure. But as always, what we always do before we get into the stats, we do recap of the previous card, and we both had winning nights. Yeah, I kept it relatively light. This was probably it was my lightest card of the year. I did have 6 bets. I went 4-2. My biggest bet of the night was Jonathan Martinez, 2.5 units, minus 230. A little bit sweatier than I had imagined it to be. He won like 95% of the fight, but it was Perez who kind of won those moments. He knocked him down at the end of the first round. At the end of the second round, it was kind of a close round, and then Perez comes on strong at the end of the second as well. So it was a little bit, closer than I'd like, but Jonathan Martinez was able to get it done. My next biggest bet was Terence Mckenney, Farazayam, under 2.5 rounds, 2 units, minus 125. I was really happy with, how much I put on that. Typically I'd put about a unit, 1.25 units on that, but I liked it so much that I did put 2 units on it, and I feel like I could have even put more on it. So that cashed with not much sweat there. My next biggest bet of the night was just a 1 unit bet on Ramiz Brahimaj, Michael Gilmore under 2.5 rounds, 1 unit, minus 135. That line just didn't make sense, and that should have been a bigger bet as well. Whereas you have a minus 400 favorite in Brahimaj, who has literally only won by first round submission, 1 fight into the second round, and the under was minus 135. So I played that, and then I also saw the Brahimaj to win in round 1 or round 2 at plus 100, which it makes no sense, but put a half unit on that. I should have went heavier on that fight, but I was a little bit sketched out because Brahimaj, he's shown poor fight IQ, he's shown poor cardio, and this fight did get extended. I have concerns, but Michael Gilmore is not UFC caliber. Brahimaj took him down and submitted him, played out just how we expected. The 2 losses, yeah, I don't hate these bets. The first one was the Alvarez scorecards equals no action plus 150. I would have liked to see how the fight played out. If he did not get that nasty cut. I thought the most likely scenario was a Arman Sarukian decision, but it was, one-sided, completely one-sided. I wasn't expecting a Sarukian finish, but he dominated the guy. So 1 unit down on that. And then I don't hate this shot as well. I had Islam Makhachev by submission, plus 110, half a unit. I took a minus 1,000 favorite, turned it into a plus 110, but he ended up getting the ground and pound victory. And it's a shame because I watched the Islam interview. He was upset with Herb Dean. He said he stopped the fight a little bit too early. He said he wanted to get the sub. So overall, 4-2 on the night. Can't complain. Kept it small. I honestly did not like the card. I felt horrible about it. But, coming out with about a 2.5 unit profit is good with me. So, Weezy, how'd your night go?
Yeah, it was a winning night for me. I stayed super small. There were a lot of spots that I thought were okay, but there were nothing really calling out to me. The only fight I hit hard was Sarukian and Alvarez. I had 2 units on the Sarukian money line, and I had 3/4 of a unit on the Sarukian decision line. And I didn't pull the trigger on the finish because I wanted to just add to it, because after I made the decision bet, I said to myself, oh man, he's going to finish this guy. And I didn't actually pull the trigger on adding the finish just in making it another money line bet. But so I won 1 unit on the Sarukian money line. I lost 3/4 of a unit on the decision line for Saruki, and then I also had 1.3 units on McKinney's IM under 2.5. So that was a cash. I finished up 1.25 units on the week, but I only wagered 4. So, it was a decent return on investment. I stayed really small, kept my powder dry for this week where we got so many great fights. I'm going to be a lot heavier on this card.
Yeah, I think I will be as well. Researched the whole card today outside of one fight I still need to tape, but nothing really sticking out from a money line perspective. We have a bunch of big favorites. I think if you are somebody who likes parlays, which a lot of people do, I think this is a very good parlay card. But in terms of finding the straight bets, not a ton sticks out for me, but there's a lot of props that are sticking out right away as well. So we'll talk about all those. I do want to shout out the chat before we get started into this card. 82 of you in here already. If you guys can smash the like button, also subscribe here to Pub Sports Radio, that'd be much, much appreciated. As always, we have Raw Torque, the first one in the building. We have Sean in the chat as well. Bonquiqui. We have Mushroom. We have the man Lou Betcha. We have Hype MMA. Rick Sanchez. We have Tim in the chat. Paul. Thank you all for hanging out. F. Carrillo hanging out as well. And I also see an F. Carrillo donation, $20. Appreciate you, F. Carrillo. Always supporting week in and week out. Really does mean a lot. Thank you for the $20 donor. Really does help us out at Pub Sports Radio. We have Philip in the chat as well. Rex Lee with a very nice comment to two sexiest man on YouTube. I really appreciate that, Rex Lee. SB as well. Otis, the beefy one. See if I missed anybody. We have Effie in the chat. We got Tim as well. Do I get everybody? Eric, Jason, and I think that is about it. We got Chris as well. Adam, thank you all so much for hanging out. Leave a like, Jake as well. Leave a like, subscribe. Do appreciate it quite a bit. Me and Weezy will be going live on MMA Engine tomorrow. New YouTube channel. Go check it out. We'll be doing the main event deep dive. That'll be around 5:15 p.m. Eastern time. Make sure you guys tune into that as well. But right now, we're going to go pretty deep into this card. See you, General, as well. Here we go. Let's start with the very first fight of the night. Of course, his order is going to change, as they do tend to change it up quite a bit every week. But first fight, we have Dustin Jacoby going against Mikel Oleksiejczuk. We have Dustin Jacoby, who is 33 years old, 6'3" with a 76-inch reach, going against Mikel Oleksiejczuk, who is 27 years old, 6 foot with a 74-inch reach. So Dustin Jacoby is going to be 6 years older, but he's going to have a 3-inch height advantage and a 2-inch reach advantage. Mikel Oleksiejczuk, very, very small for the division. Probably should move down a weight class, and Dustin Jacoby is going to be much, much bigger. Dustin Jacoby, he has 4-0 and 1 draw in his last 5 fights, whereas Mikel Oleksiejczuk, he has 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Had a very good knockout win against Shamil Gamzatov, and I remember me and Weezy had either the under 2.5 or the fight doesn't go to decision in that fight. And it was the weirdest thing. I mean, Shamil Gamzatov showed like some of the worst cardio I've ever seen in my life. Like the dude fell off a cliff with like 3 minutes left in the first round. I went back and watched it today. I didn't realize how bad this dude gassed out, but Mikel Oleksiejczuk was able to finish him there. Prior to that, a really close decision against Modestas Bukauskas. So yeah, Oleksiejczuk kind of up and down thus far in the UFC. He had those 2 losses against Crute and Oven St. Preux. He had those early finishes against Antigulov where he knocked him down like 4 times. He finished Jean Vellante with a shot to the body as well. So yeah, I like both these guys. Honestly, I just feel like, they're both going to get the fight they want. Typically guys are going to try to take down Dustin Jacoby. 38 takedowns attempted against Dustin Jacoby. And we've also seen Mikel Oleksiejczuk struggle on the mat. We saw Jimmy Crute take him down like 8 times. We saw OSP take him down and submit him. So I think both these guys are just going to stand and bang. And at that point, I really do like the kickboxing of Dustin Jacoby. Very nice leg kicks, body kicks as well. I like the volume of Dustin Jacoby. And I like the fact that he's the more natural light heavyweight. He's going to be the bigger fighter. bigger in height, bigger in reach as well. But Olazechuk, he's no joke. He's going to come forward. He's going to throw hard. He's going to mix it up to the body, to the head. I think it's a very intriguing matchup to start off a very fun card, Weezy.
Yeah, for sure, man. So I've got for the advantages for Jacoby here in the numbers. I've got that he's 3 inches taller. He's got that 2-inch reach advantage when it comes to experience. He's got 1 more pro fight, 30 more minutes in the pro cage, 3 more minutes as a pro mixed martial artist, or 3 more years, I'm sorry, an extensive kickboxing experience in addition to MMA, 1 more UFC level fight, 45 more minutes in the UFC cage. So he's a little more experienced. And when it comes to striking, he's landing almost 2 more significant strikes per minute than he absorbs. He's out-voluming his opponents, and he's more accurate. Decent power for the Division II at landing a knockdown on 0.58% of the total significant strikes that he's landing, averaging out to about a half knockdown per 15 minutes. But for Olazechuk, he's 6 years younger. He's a southpaw. For some people, that's very difficult to deal with. He's a more accurate striker. He's more powerful, actually, at the 205-pound division than Jacoby's been. And he's more defensively responsible, according to all the metrics, compared to Jacoby, that is. When it comes to grappling, Michał prefers to strike just like Dustin, and he's managed to keep his fight standing over 85% of his UFC cage time in a 7-fight sample size. Despite being taken down 9 times, he's only been controlled by his opponents for 4 minutes. So he does have a pretty good get-up game when he does get taken down. And he's fought, beaten, and lost to the better and more experienced competition in the UFC. So I do see this being a striking match, Brady. Neither one of these guys has attempted a lot of takedowns. They're both attempting less than 1 takedown per fight. They've both only gotten 2 takedowns in combined 15 fights, so 4 takedowns combined in 15 fights. When you add up their control times, it's about 14% combined. So these guys are, controlling their opponents less than 10% of the time. So it's pretty fair to say this fight should take place on the feet. Will it be, Jacoby's better technical skills, a little bit, the fact that he's a bigger guy, a stronger guy, or it will be Olazechuk's speed and the power that he's shown at this division is kind of scary for a guy that's really more of a natural middleweight. But the thing is, man, when you go up in weight, especially when you get up to like 205 and 265, there's just not as many good athletes up there. You can be faster than them. You can be better conditioned than them. And sometimes that's enough at those higher weight classes. Just being a little bit more skilled, a little bit better conditioned, a little bit quicker is enough to win fights. And you look at a guy like Olazechuk. I mean, this guy's landed 5 knockdowns in 7 fights. So I think a lot of people are going to be like, yeah, Jacoby's the more powerful guy here. Well, on paper, he isn't. Olazechuk's knocking people out at 205, and Jacoby's only landed 2 knockdowns in 8 fights. So it's an interesting matchup.
Yeah, I honestly don't think it's debatable. I think the harder hitter is clearly Michał Olazechuk. This dude has power in his hands. I remember the Antigulov fight. It was probably one of the more hilarious fights of Antigulov's career, which his whole career is pretty hilarious. But he dropped him like 5 times. Like he got up, dropped him, he got up, he dropped him, he got up, he dropped him, and then finally finished him. Like this guy has a ton of power in his hands, whereas I think Dustin Jacoby, he's probably the better striker, probably has the better cardio as well. So yeah, it's a very, very interesting fight. And we do see that it's not really close on the line. We see that Dustin Jacoby opened up -160, is now -195, and Olazechuk opened up +140, and he is currently +170. And something that I saw that really stuck out is the striking defense of Olazechuk. 65%, like in the light heavyweight division, that's got to be up there, right?
Oh, I mean, 65% is crazy. I mean, that it's really good. And, but the light heavyweight division is kind of weird because, you got people that are very few light heavyweights are good at more than one thing. Same thing with heavyweights. You're either a striker or a grappler, or you just have like, one thing that you're huge for the division or something like that. But there's not a lot of well-rounded guys. So, somebody like Olazechuk is interesting with that power and that speed combination that he brings. It's unique for the division.
Yeah, it definitely is for sure. I do want to take a look. I see some people in the chat saying violence potentially. We have the fight goes to decision. minus 135. The fight doesn't go to decision, open up plus 100. It is now minus 105. I think if Olazechuk wins, I think it's going to be inside the distance. I think if Jacoby wins, I think it could also be inside the distance, but I could also see a decision.
Yeah, so we've got 9 combined losses for these guys. 7 of them have been inside the distance. So that's a really nice number, especially at these higher weight classes. Oleksiejczuk, ton of power in his hands, and because he's so unorthodox and the way that he moves is so strange, he can gas out later on in fights, and we've seen Jacoby carry a pace for 3 rounds. So I could see Oleksiejczuk landing some big shots early like he did against Gamzatov. I could see him gassing out and Jacoby getting a finish late. So fight doesn't go as, what did you say, minus 130?
Minus 105, yeah.
Minus 105. That's very intriguing to me. And these guys, it's not like these guys aren't getting finishes in their UFC wins either. As Oleksiejczuk has finished 3 of 4 and Jacoby's finished 2 of 5. So that's 5 of 9. So over 50% of their wins are inside the distance, but well over 50% of their losses are inside the distance. That makes it even more intriguing.
Yeah, definitely. So which way are you leaning here? I think for me, I think it's kind of close than the line does indicate, but I like the size of Jacoby. I like the striking ability, the way to mix it up with the leg kicks, with the body kicks as well. I like the volume. But Olazechuk, I think he's very, very live here too, especially early. Caused some problems for Jacoby. So I'm probably going to go with Jacoby, but I'm not going to touch the minus 200. Which way you lean on this one?
Yeah, I think I'm also going to go with Jacoby here because, he hasn't been easy to finish. Most of his UFC losses have been by submission, and he's only been knocked out once in his career. And Michael Oleksiejczuk really isn't submitting anybody. So since Jacoby's been pretty durable, I see him kind of surviving the early storm and maybe getting this finish late. But the best bet is that, from the numbers that I'm seeing on the page here, the fight doesn't go is very intriguing.
There we go. Maybe some violence to start the night. That would always be good. But we'll move on to the next fight, and we will stick with some violence. And I love this from a violence perspective. And I'm going to be looking out for that fight doesn't go in those unders because we had Devontae Smith going against Ludovic Klein. We had Devontae Smith, 28 years old, 5'9", with a 76-inch reach. Ludovic Klein, 27 years old, 5'7", with a 72-inch reach. So Klein is going to be 1 year younger. He's going to have a 2-inch height disadvantage and a 4-inch reach disadvantage as well. Ludovic Klein is stepping in on short notice for Eric Gonzalez. Ludovic Klein is also coming up a weight class here. And I looked through his career a little bit. He does have, I think, a couple fights at 155. I see a lot of catch weights at like 150 around there as well. So I don't think he's going to be like completely undersized, but this is not his normal weight class. His normal weight class is 145. So we'll take a look at their last few fights. Devontae Smith, he is 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Julian Erosa, knockout. Dong Young Ma, knockout. Kamaworthy, knockout loss as like a minus 1,000 favorite. I'll never forget that. Justin James, knockout. And Jamie Malarkey, knockout loss in the second round. As you can see, there are a lot of finishes. Devontae Smith has never been to decision. I don't think. He's never been to decision, win or loss. So he's a finisher or he's getting finished. Ludovic Klein, he is 3-2 in his last 5 fights. He made his debut against Shane Young. Man, I had high hopes for Ludovic Klein. Like I was all over this guy, and sometimes you're just kind of wrong. He came in, made his debut against Shane Young, head kick knockout. And I called that one perfectly as well. And then he comes back against Mike Trezano, loses a very close fight. I personally did score it for him. I did not have a bet on that fight, but I thought the takedowns were enough. Could have went either way, but still, it was not a good look. He was like a minus 350 favorite in that Trezano fight. And then against Landwehr, just a horrific performance, really. I mean, he was another big favorite, and then he went in there. He didn't look good. And the thing with Ludovic Klein is he's a finisher as well. He's won a decision one time. He has like a 94% finish rate. And what I noticed with Ludovic Klein is he's really good when he's not getting pressured. He's really good when he could just, stand at range and, pick apart his opponents, land that head kick. But when he gets pressured, I don't like what I see. And I also don't like the lack of volume from Ludovic Klein thus far in his 3 fights. He's only attempting 6.5 significant strikes per minute. I'd like to see more from the volume. And with Devontae Smith, I'm pretty high on this guy. This guy has all the tools you'd like to see to potentially one day, be somebody we can talk about being in that top 10. But There's one big thing with Devontae Smith, and that's the chin. I mean, he has the speed, he has the power. This guy has dynamite in his hands. The quickness, he has the takedown defense. He has everything you want to see besides the chin. I mean, getting knocked out by Kama Worthy is a horrible look. Getting knocked out by Jamie Malarkey is not a great look, but when Devontae Smith is losing, he is losing by knockout. So this fight should be lined very close. It's simple as this. I think somebody's going to get finished here. Is it going to be the hands of Devontae Smith, the power in the hands, or is it going to be that head kick of Ludovic Klein? I do lean towards Devontae Smith, but not by much. I was telling Weezy how Devontae Smith should be a favorite, but not too big of a favorite because I think he is the better fighter here. I think he's the quicker fighter. I think he's going to have more volume, but Ludovic Klein's one head kick away from ending the entire fight. But give me Devontae Smith. I don't like the fact that Klein's coming in on short notice. I don't like the fact that he's coming up a weight class, but this should be a spot where Devontae Smith wins. But again, I would not make him too big of a favorite because the chin is suspect for sure. So Weezy, this is a great fight. What do you think about this one?
Yeah, I was up late last night and then early this morning watching film on both of these guys, and it was an absolute treat. I went down a rabbit hole. Like the one thing you don't want to do is like watch every fight of every fighter because then you can't tape every fight because you just spend too much time on one fight. But I watched every fight available on both of these guys, and it was a whole lot of fun. Just go through the advantages for both fighters here real quick. For Smitty, he's 2 inches taller. He's got a 4-inch reach advantage, so he's going to be the bigger guy here. Experience, he's fought almost half his career at the UFC level, while for Klein, it's around 15%. He's a killer-be-killed fighter. All 14 pro fights have ended inside the distance. Striking, and by the way, let's get that violence ticker along the bottom of the screen there if it isn't up already. And striking, we got nicer striking metrics in the UFC as a whole for Smitty. Devontae has crazy power. He's landed 3 knockdowns in 6 UFC fights, and he's landing them over a 2% clip, the knockdowns. 1.24 more significant strikes a minute than he absorbs, and he's outvoluming his opponents and has a better striking defense than Klein by about 10%. Plus, Devontae is a problem when he goes to his low leg kicks. He also did so with a ton of success against another southpaw in Dong Hyun Ma. So those low leg kicks are a serious problem when Devontae starts cracking those off. And let's remember here that Klein is a southpaw. Devontae Smith is an orthodox fighter. And if you think of the weapons of these guys, the left uppercut and the left high kick for Klein are very dangerous. And then for Devontae Smith, it's that right low leg kick that, especially in an opposite stance, and that straight right down the pipe, all those weapons for both fighters are going to be open for business here. And then you add to the fact that 14 of 14 of Devontae Smith's fights have finished inside the distance, and 19 of 21 for Ludovic Klein. So it's 33 out of 35 fights have finished inside the distance. It's over 90%.
That's nuts.
Between both of these guys combined. It's absolutely disgusting. The violence just pops off the page in such a glorious way. And then the violence gods give us southpaw versus orthodox. The violence gods give us another thing in Ludovic Klein coming in all the way from Europe on short notice. Devontae Smith needs a win here, you guys. He's lost 2 out of his last 3 fights inside the distance. His only win is over a 1-4 in the UFC Justin James. So, this is a big one. In the grappling realm here, Devontae's done a good job keeping his fight standing over 85% of the time, and he has 80% takedown defense, and he showed an impressive top game against Justin James when he did take him down. And he's fought, beaten, and lost to the more experienced UFC competition here. For Klein's a southpaw. He has 7 more pro fights, 44 more minutes in the pro cage, and he has a year more as a pro. Klein is the more diverse finisher in comparison to Smitty. He has just as many wins by submission, 8, as he does by KO, 8. While Devontae Smith is pretty much just knocking people out. He only has 1 submission on his record. Striking, Klein's a southpaw, so the power weapons of both fighters will be open for business. And Klein features a very nice left leg high kick that he has scored KOs with. And Smitty's been KO'd in all 3 of his pro losses, and he's been knocked down twice in the UFC. So there's definitely openings for both of these guys to land a big shot. In terms of the grappling, Klein will be the far more willing wrestler in this matchup, because he's shot for 9 takedown attempts in 3 UFC fights, while Smith has attempted only 1 takedown in 6 UFC fights. So Klein has 8 career wins by submission and will be the more well-rounded mixed martial artist in this spot. And Klein has fought, beaten, and lost to the UFC competition with the better win-loss records. Love the fight doesn't go to decision for this fight. I think it's going to be a really good striking battle. When I was watching the regional scene competition for Ludovic Klein, you go back, Brady, he's fighting some Russians in ACB and beating these guys. He had some tough fights in Octagon against some really good European veterans, including Lukas Sajewski, who's a former UFC fighter. The regional scene competition for Ludovic Klein is very good. He does deserve to be here. He's more diverse. He's more well-rounded than Smith, but that speed and power that Smith has is just absolutely terrifying. I could absolutely see him landing a good shot. The last thing I wanted to bring up is neither one of these guys likes being pressured. However, neither one of them is very good at applying pressure either. It's another thing that leads me to believe that this is a great violent spot, because I think both guys are going to be at their most comfortable here, and they're going to be firing off their power strikes, and it's just a matter of time before one of them lands, because Klein's got 45% striking defense. Devontae Smith, it's 55, and he's chinny. Somebody's going down here, dude.
Devontae Smith is so chin. I mean, there's no excuse for getting knocked out against Kama Worthy, who he's been knocked out like 10 times. I thought Devontae Smith was going to start him early, but it didn't happen that way. But yeah, this has violence written all over it. We'll take a look at the odds. And like I was saying, like Devontae Smith, I think he should be favored here. He is -170, open at -130. I think that -130 sounds about more correct to me, like -130, -150, -170 now, Ludovic Klein. And for some reason on Best Fight Odds, they have Ludovic Klein. I don't know what's wrong with them. Like, they've been making mistakes lately. So Ludovic Klein is +140, but this is what I'm looking at, Weezy. We have the fight goes to decision, +120. The fight doesn't go to decision is -160. I wish I can get my hands on a line like that.
If you have a family member who's thinking of betting the fight goes to decision at +120, it's time that family member gets help. Who the hell would be like, oh yeah, +120 is fantastic odds for a fight goes to decision when 33 of 35 combined fights of these guys have finished inside the distance? You would have to be a masochist. You would have to be just stupid. I don't know what to say, but who would bet that at +120? 5 dimes, God bless you. You're making the violence bettors absolutely rich, because by the time these lines open on a book that we can hit, they'll probably be at -250, Brady, and we'll be crying.
We will be. It happens every week too. We're like, oh
Every
yeah,
damn
that
week.
line's awesome, and then it opens up, it's already gone.
Yeah,
I wish I had 5 dimes account still.
I know, man. We gotta find one, dude. We gotta get one of those accounts, man. There's so many opportunities.
I know. Sadly, for some reason, I'm not sure why, but it's no longer illegal in the United States. But hopefully they come back. So yeah, good fight here. I'm gonna pick Smith, but you can't be confident in Devontae Smith. I mean, if you're getting knocked out by Kama Worthy, you really can't be confident there. But I think he should win. I think he's the better fighter. But Ludovic Klein's no joke. I think he's good as well. The Nate Landwehr loss was not a good look, but he hits hard and he kicks hard to the head. So he's live as well. So I'll pick Devontae Smith, but I'm more so looking at that violence.
Yeah, this is going to be such a good fight, such a fun fight. It's just one of many fights on this card that's going to be so much fun to watch.
Yeah, for sure. We have 172 of you in here. If you all can smash the like button, we're about to break down the next fight on the card. We have Tim Elliott going against Tagir Ulanbekov. We have Tim Elliott, 35 years old, 5'7", 66-inch reach. Tagir Ulanbekov, 30 years old, 5'7", with a 70-inch reach. Ulanbekov, 5 years younger, and Ulanbekov is going to have a 4-inch reach advantage. Tim Elliott, he is 2-3 in his last 5 fights, but losing to some really solid competition. A decision loss to Askar Askarov, a submission loss to Brandon Royval, a decision win against Ryan Benoit, and a decision win against Jordan Espinoza, and a decision loss against Mateus Nicolau. Tagir Ulanbekov, he is 5-0 in his last 5 fights, made his debut against Bruno Silva, and then he had a decision win against Alan Nascimento, which for some reason that was a split decision. I thought it was, pretty clear it was Tagir there, but split decision nonetheless. Yeah, interesting fight here, Weezy. What do you think about this one?
Yeah, this is man. It's hard to know what to think. Let me just go through my notes here and tell you, like, just according to the stats, who's got the advantages and where. For Elliott, experience advantage is key here. 16 more pro fights, 175 more minutes of pro cage time, 4 more years as a pro, 14 more fights at the UFC level, over half his career in the UFC, and 170 more minutes in the UFC cage. According to the striking metrics here, over a huge sample size too, Elliott has the far better striking ratios. He's busier, he's more accurate, he's more powerful, and he's more defensively responsible. He's fought, beaten, and lost to the more experienced, better competition. For Ulanbekov, he's 5 years younger. He's got a big reach advantage here of 4 inches. He's the better finisher. He's got a 61% finish rate to Elliott's 53%. He's never been finished, while Elliott's been finished in 6 of his 12 career losses. So Ulanbekov definitely more durable. In terms of the grappling, Ulanbekov has been the far more efficient and better minute winner on the ground. He lands 4.5 takedowns per 15 minutes in comparison to Elliott's 3.79, which is also excellent. But the difference is the takedown percentage for Ulanbekov, 56% to 45%. For Elliott, and he outcontrols his opponents. This is the key, you guys. 52.83% to 8.72%. For Elliott, it's 31% to 22%. So you just see which one of these guys has been more efficient on the ground. Ulanbekov in only 16 takedown attempts is, winning more than half of the minutes in control time positions, while Elliott on 109 takedown attempts is winning about 30% of the minutes on the ground, but still giving up 22%. And the thing is, he's attempted more than twice as many takedown attempts as his opponents, but he's not getting twice the control time. And he's got over 2.5 times as many successful takedowns, this Tim Elliott, than his opponents, yet he's really only out-controlling them at like a 1.7 to 1 ratio, while for Tagir Ulanbekov, it's like a 6 to 1 ratio. So definitely Ulanbekov has just been a fantastic minute winner on the ground here. And because like over 60% of his fights are taking place on the ground, and for Elliott, it's something like 54% on a massive 16-fight sample size. When I break down a fight like this leads me to believe when you have 2 guys with over 50% of control time for and against, it's easy. Who's the better grappler? That's who's winning this fight, And we've seen Elliott be good on the ground. And then there's Tagir Ulanbekov, who's dominant on the ground and who's very long and can get submissions that other guys can't get because of his length, because of his size. Really, what Tim Elliott here has is an experience advantage and a fact that he's fought much tougher competition over his career. But when we look at the wins, Tim Elliott's wins aren't any better than Tagir Ulanbekov's. And in order for me to think that Tim's got a chance to win this fight, I got to believe that he's the better grappler than Ulanbekov, and I don't believe that. So I'm picking Tagir here by decision.
Yeah, in the last 8 years or so, we take a look at Elliott's wins. In the last, since 2014, his wins include Luis Smolka, where he took him down 12 times, Mark De La Rosa, Ryan Benoit, and Jordan Espinosa. Those are bad. Those are really bad.
Yeah, and I mean, it's like Tagir's beating Alan Nascimento and Bruno Silva, but
yeah,
but he's winning those fights in dominant fashion, and he's going out there with a very clear game plan. Like Tim Elliott's game plan is like chaos. Tim Elliott looks like he's on meth when he's out there. He's all over the place. He's completely unpredictable, and that's his style. It works for him. He's elusive on the feet. Because of that movement, he's very hard to find. He's very hard to land big shots on. But Tagir's just not going to try to find him with his fists. He's just going to corner him and win minutes on the ground here. And Tim gives up enough minutes. 57% takedown defense for Tim Elliott over a very large sample size, 22% control time against. So, I think there's a path here for Tagir to win a ton of minutes on the ground. And on the feet, he's going to have a 4-inch reach advantage too. So, Tagir, it feels safe, but, you don't throw the whole bank at it because Elliott's a wily veteran. He's a unique opponent, and he's fought the much tougher competition, but he hasn't beaten the much tougher competition here.
Yeah, definitely. I kind of do lean towards the Tagir, either a decision or a submission. Elliott gets submitted a lot. Looks like 5 total submission losses got submitted by the way, really good guy. Brandon Royval submitted him after Elliott kind of gassed out after a crazy pace. Davidson Figueiredo finished him. Ben Nguyen finished him. And Josiane Nunez finished him by submission as well. So those were his 4 submission losses. And then he had 1 outside of the UFC. So I think a submission could be live here. But yeah, submission or decision for Tagir Ulanbekov. For me, the odds are a little bit closer than I kind of expect them to be. So Tagir Ulanbekov opened up -275. He is now -220. Tim Elliott opened up +235. He's now +185. So money is coming in on Elliott early. The fight goes to decision -155. The fight doesn't go to decision +115. I think it probably goes to decision unless Ulanbekov is able to give Elliott his 6th submission loss, which it could be possible. Elliott is now 35 years old at flyweight, not the best look in the world, but I think Ulanbekov's not a bad play here, but I might just wait it out. If I can get Ulanbekov better than -200, it might be something to look at, and it looks like it's trending that way.
Yeah, and you brought up a great point, dude. If you can get those double chance lines by decision or submission, it'd probably be the best way to go here. Maybe you can get it from -225 down to like -180, and then it's bettable there. And then you just got to hope that Tim doesn't get knocked out. But Tim's only been knocked out, I think, once in 30 fights.
So
and it's
tough.
not like Tagir Ulanbekov is just sleeping, dude. So, maybe that'd be a good way to attack it if you like Tagir's chances to win this fight. I love guys that can win minutes and decide where the fight takes place. That's why I was on Arman last night, Sarukian, and I think this is another situation where Tagir is going to choose where the fight takes place and win minutes there.
Yep. I think that Tagir submission or decision is sneaky because, like you said, Tagir 0 knockouts in 14 fights. Elliott very tough to knock out, but Elliott very well can be submitted. Ulanbekov a 54% submission rate. So I think we're both on the same side here. Tagir Ulanbekov. We have FENE Sports Action saying, what's the over-under? It is not out yet, but they do have the fight goes to decision, which the fight goes -155 and the fight doesn't go is +115. They do have a couple over-unders out. We'll talk about those, but like none on the prelims yet, which is weird. Usually they have them out by now, but we'll keep moving on to the next fight on the card. And we have Brian Kelleher going against Umar Nurmagomedov. We have Brian Kelleher, 35 years old, 5'6", with a 66-inch reach. Umar Nurmagomedov, 25 years old, 5'8", with a 69-inch reach. Umar Nurmagomedov undefeated. He's going to be 10 years younger. That's very significant. It's going to have a height advantage of 2 inches and a 3-inch reach advantage as well. So tail of the tape strongly in favor of Umar Nurmagomedov. We'll take a look at the last 5. We have Brian Kelleher, 3-2 in his last 5 fights, a decision loss to Cody Stamann, a submission win over Ray Rodriguez, a decision loss to Ricky Simone, a decision win against Domingo Pilarte and Kevin Kroom. And we have Umar Nurmagomedov, who made his debut against Sergey Morozov and was able to win that fight by submission. So, yeah, we have not seen Nurmagomedov in a long time. He fought in January of 2021, so very, very early last year. So it's been a while since we have seen him in there, but I went back and watched this guy, and this guy's good. He has very, very good striking. He has a very good head kick as well. And then the scrambling ability he showed in the Morozov fight. And like Morozov, we know, is no bum whatsoever, but he was able to out-scramble Morozov. He was able to take him down 5 times, and he was able to even submit Morozov at some point in that fight. I was just really impressed with the well-roundedness of Umar Nurmagomedov. I like the striking. He hurt Morozov bad. He wobbled him bad, almost finished him. He showed great composure, ended up taking him down and submitting him. I just really liked what I saw, and I went back and watched some of his fights outside the UFC. And again, his wrestling's very good. His grappling's really good. He's been able to get submissions in the last couple of years as well. Looks like his submission game's improving, and he's training with very, very good guys. So, yeah, I think this guy's really good. And on top of that, he's young. He's so young, 25 years old. So I'm assuming he's probably going to level up training with those guys, and we have not seen him in like a year and a half. So, yeah, I really like what I see from Umar Nurmagomedov, and I get why he's the biggest favorite on the card. Brian Kelleher, this is the type of guy that if you're not, up there, and if you're not one of the best guys in the division, um, he's going to beat you. He beat Kevin Kroom, who's probably not UFC caliber. He beat Domingo Pilarte, who's been cut. He's beat Ray Rodriguez, who I don't know if he's been cut yet, but not UFC caliber. He beat Hunter Azure, solid win. He beat Ode Osborne. He beat Henan Barao towards the end of his career. And yeah, that's about it. Damien Stasiak back in the day, Ilir Alcantara as well. And then he loses to guys like Marlon Vera, John Lineker, Montel Jackson, Cody Stamen, Ricky Simone. So his wins are not great, but his losses are against some pretty solid guys there. And I think Umar Nurmagomedov is more than a pretty solid guy. So yeah, I like Umar Nurmagomedov here. I get why he's the biggest favorite on the card. Of course, we have to worry about how dangerous Kelleher is. He's dangerous on the feet. He has a ton of power. And then also we have to worry about him pulling Gilly like he always does, as a very good guillotine. But I think Umar Nurmagomedov is going to be very wise to that. I like Nurmagomedov on the feet here. I like that he's going to be bigger, and then I think he can take down Kelleher whenever he wants. I did not like what I saw from the takedown defense of Kelleher. On paper, 60%, but he seems to kind of just give up the takedown at some point. So, yep, Nurmagomedov for me, don't really see many paths to Kelleher outside of maybe a knockout, and even then I think that's a stretch.
It is. I mean, so let's go to the Kelleher advantages. He's a switch stance fighter. That's always a good thing. And obviously experience. He's got 23 more pro fights. He's got 165 more minutes in the pro cage, almost 6 more years as a pro, 12 more fights at the UFC level, fought just under 40% of his career at the highest level, 110 more minutes in the UFC cage, better, more diverse finisher with a 75% finish rate, 42% by sub, 33% by knockout. Brian has shown some power at the UFC level, landing 3 knockdowns in 13 fights, and he's averaging 0.37 knockdowns per 15 minutes. Pretty good for the bantamweight division. Grappling, he's been an efficient grappler at the UFC level, out-controlling his opponents at almost a 2-to-1 ratio, and landing takedowns at a 42% rate, averaging 1.87 per 15 minutes and 0.75 submission attempts per 15 minutes. And he's fought and beaten the better, more experienced UFC competition. But Nurmagomedov is 10 years younger, Brady. He's 2 inches taller, and he's got a 3-inch reach advantage. So he's going to be the much bigger dude here. And striking, his striking is good, but he uses his offensive grappling to stay defensively responsible in the striking round. He's only absorbed 0.81 significant strikes per minute in his UFC debut. It's a very similar amount to what Islam Makhachev absorbs, which is, I think, 0.71 significant strike attempts per minute. He's one of these guys that even if his striking was complete garbage and he didn't know how to throw a punch, it wouldn't matter because you would never be on the feet long enough to hit him because he's just going to take you down and own you there. But that's not the case. He's a very good striker. He's a very well-tooled striker, and he's got all his weapons. So, 61% striking accuracy in his debut against Morozov, almost 77% striking defense. The grappling, he's a next-level wrestler, grappler, and minute winner on the ground. 6 of his 13 pro wins are by submission, and he outcontrolled Morozov at a 22-to-1 ratio on the ground in his debut. 8.67 takedowns for 15 minutes, 1.73 submission attempts for 15 minutes. It's just going to be really hard for Brian Kelleher to win minutes on the ground here. Brian Kelleher's path to victory here is moment winning, a big left hook, a guillotine that Umar just gets lazy and gets caught in. But if we're talking about a fight that's going to go 15 minutes here, how does Brian Kelleher win minutes here? The second he starts landing punches on the feet, Umar is going to take him down. And it's not like Brian has showed good takedown defense, 60% in the UFC. So, this should be Umar all day. If Brian wins this fight, it's going to be inside the distance, and it's going to be a flash knockout or a submission. So, you got to believe that the line at minus 675 for Umar Nurmagomedov kind of feels right here. Kelleher's got that puncher's chance. He's the more experienced guy. He's more wily. He's fought the better brand of competition. But when the rubber meets the road, he loses to elite fighters. And if you don't think that Umar Nurmagomedov has a chance to be elite, I don't know. I think he does.
Yeah, and I was watching this guy last night. I was like, dude, this guy's good. He's so good. And he's 25 right now. So he was like, what, 24, 23 a couple years ago? Like, that's young, and he's only going to get better training with, very good guys, Eagles MMA. And Kelleher, he's 35 years old. He's getting up there. We could potentially see some decline in the near future as well. So yeah, I just really like Umar in the spot, but it's not just like last week. It's not a hot take or anything. Like Islam Makhachev is going to be Bobby Green. I think he wins here, but you can't lay the minus 700. And Umar actually opened up minus 270, which that's bettable, but now he's minus 700. Not much you can do with that unless you are somebody that likes the parlays. I think he would be a solid parlay piece, but I'm not going to have many parlays, if any, this week. The fight goes to decision, minus 145. The fight doesn't go to decision is plus 105. We take a look at the finish rates, and Nurmagomedov, earlier in his career, just wasn't much of a finisher at all. He's shown better finishing ability as of late, but still a 54% finish rate. Obviously never lost. And then Brian Kelleher, he has been finished in 7 of his 12 losses, and Brian Kelleher is a finisher with a 75% finish rate. Brian Kelleher has also lost by submission 6 times. So I think Nurmagomedov by submission could be something to look at, but another one where I'm just like the Tagir fight, I think it's Nurmagomedov either by decision or submission.
Yeah, that'd probably be the best way to play it as well. But with these fights, when you got a minus 700 favorite and you're on the favorite, I think if you're thinking in terms of I want to make good long-term gambling decisions, the good long-term gambling decision in a fight like that is just not to bet it. Yeah. Because you really have to hone in on one particular way of victory. And last night's a perfect example. You would expect Islam he would have gotten the sub. And it was one of the only ways to bet it. You had to either bet it by sub or by knockout or try to pick a round. And that's so hard to do, dude. You're really and you're laying just way too much juice to narrow down the potential results that far. So this feels like a definite stay away from me here.
Yeah, it's a stay away from me as well. And like I said, I'm trying to stay away from the parlays, and thank goodness I did last night because I was really close to parlaying the Gregory Rodriguez Armin Petrosian fight doesn't go to decision, which was like minus 350 or minus 400. Yeah, I can't believe that went the distance. That was nuts.
That was man.
Those
that's
parlays
the game we bet on.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, gotta stay away from those parlays. But that's just me. I know people seem to love them. But we'll move on to the next fight here, and we have another fight with not only the main event having bad blood, but this main event might have even more bad blood. And there's probably like a 50% chance, Weezy, that this fight does not happen. I'm sure you'll go into more detail, but Marina Maros has pulled out of like her last like 8 fights that are like, it's like something crazy. So we'll see if Marina Maros fights, but don't get your hopes up too much. We have Maros. She is 30 years old, 5'7", with a 67-inch reach. Maria Agapova, she is 24 years old, 5'6", with a 68-inch reach. We'll take a look at the last 5. Rose had a split decision win against Daniel Taylor. If you have not watched that absolute banger, I recommend you go check it out. You see the high-level striking of Marina Maros landing her strikes at 6% in a 15-minute fight that did not touch the mat. Very impressive stuff there from Marina Maros. Then she comes back, loses a decision against Carla Esparza and Angela Hill, and then she bounces back with 2 wins, a win against Sabina Mazo and a decision win against Mara Bueno Silva. What I will say is you go back and watch that Maros fight, and you see that she threw over 200 punches and not many landed at all, 6% of them. You see a huge improvement from that Daniel Taylor fight to her very last fight against Mara Bueno Silva. She actually landed punches in that fight around like 60%. So I do think she improved a little bit in terms of that aspect. Maria Agapova, she is 3-2 in her last 5 fights. She had that win against Hannah Cifers by submission. That loss by TKO against Shanna Dobson, one of the biggest upsets I've ever seen. And I went back, watched that fight, and I still have nightmares about it. I remember on DraftKings, I was like nearly 100% owned on Maria Agapova. I said before the fight, if she loses, I'm going to throw my phone into the Ohio River. And she ended up losing. And I went back and watched the fight, and it was not only bad that she lost that fight, it was just kind of how she lost. Shanna Dobson came in there with like in the first 30 seconds, and Shanna Dobson took her down. Which that is not a good look. And then she took her down again in the first round. So I just did not like the performance as a whole. And then on top of that, she gassed out and got finished against Shanna Dobson. So not a good look but she does bounce back against Sabina Mazo in a fight where Mazo was pressuring the entire time, and Agapova was just picking her apart up until she landed a head kick and then submitted her there. So good performance from Mazo. We have not seen Maros in a while because she's pulling out of all of these fights. The last time that we have seen Maros was back in 2020 March against Mara Bueno Silva. So we've not seen her in a while here. So Weezy, this is a very interesting fight. I'm not sure it happens, but I hope it does because it should be a good one.
Yeah, I have to make the obligatory joke that I was going to tell Brady. I wanted to break this fight down last because there's a really good chance that by the time this show is over, Marina Maros will have pulled out of this fight. She's pulled out, 7 of her last 9 fights didn't happen because 7 of them, one of the fighters pulled out, and 6 of those were Marina Maros. I believe in her last fight, she was injured by flash photography posing for a picture. So, I don't think that this fight is going to happen. I think it's unfortunate because Marina's looked good lately. I like her. I like watching her fight. She's well-rounded. She's going to be 1 inch taller in this matchup, which was kind of surprising because Agapova's a big flyweight. In terms of experience, she's got 1 more professional fight, 37 more minutes in the pro cage, almost 2 more years as a pro, 4 more UFC level fights, 70 more minutes in the UFC cage, and it's Maros who's fought over 60% of her pro career at the UFC level, while for Agapova it's about 33%. In the grappling, Maros has been the better minute winner on the ground thus far in the UFC without question. And in the strength of schedule, Marina has fought, beaten, and lost to the better, more experienced competition in the UFC. For Agapova, she's 6 years younger, a 1 inch reach advantage, and she's a southpaw. She's a better finisher at 80% compared to Maros's 60%. And in the striking, in the UFC, Agapova has shown way better striking ratios and differences. She's 25% more accurate, 54% for Agapova, 31% for Maros. And she's landed 2 knockdowns in 4 fights, while Maros has landed 0 knockdowns in 8 fights. So a big power advantage for Agapova. And in the grappling, while Maros has been the more active wrestler and has done a good job using it to win minutes in the UFC, Agapova is more accurate on her takedowns at 66.67%, and she averages 2 more takedowns per 15 minutes than Maros. So, yeah, it's interesting. I hope Marina makes it to the fight. I don't think she will. So I don't know if it's even worth breaking this down, but hopefully she does. And if she does, I'm excited to see Agapova build on that last win over Mazo. And I'm excited to see what kind of improvements Maros has made. Both of these ladies have trained with each other, if I'm not mistaken, at ATT.
Yep.
And I don't know if is there bad blood between these two, Brady?
Oh yeah, there's you haven't saw anything about it?
See, I know they trained together, and I know there's been some stories about Maria being just a total wild card, she just being a little bit out there. And so I would imagine that there's been some drama there at ATT, but I haven't heard much about it.
Yeah, so apparently, Agapova is a wild nutcase, which she is, and Maros is saying all this stuff about her, what was going on and stuff. And I guess they roomed together or something as well. So she was telling all these stories, which are probably true, and then Agapova's none of this is true, and then they're gonna fight now. So yeah, there is some bad, but these fighters hate each other. Agapova hates Maros, so I think that's interesting. But yeah, as far as this fight goes, I try to go through and make a case for Maros here. Again, that Daniel Taylor fight is hilarious. She throws 251 strikes. That's good. That's what you want to see, but that's worse than Ji-Yeon Kim, 6%. She lands 17 strikes, and she throws 251. Weezy, I can blindfold you, spin you around 20 times, and I bet you can go out there and hit Daniel Taylor more than 17 times in 15 minutes. That's unheard of. And then you take a look at it. It's not only that fight. It's the next fight against Carla Esparza. She lands strikes at 31%. And the next fight against Angela Hill, she lands strikes at 26%. And the next fight against Mazo, she lands strikes at 29%. And then in her last fight, she does land strikes at 60% or 56%. So What I will give to her, she does throw a lot. I like to see that. And with the judges being blind, they're going to hear the noises that Maros does make because she's going to let her hands go a lot. It's going to be a lot of hitting air, but the judges aren't going to know that because they're idiots. So I feel like this fight could be very close. And another thing I looked at was Maros, her ground is very good. I think her top control is very good as well. The problem with that is she has about an 18% accuracy, but when she gets the fight down to the mat, she's actually really good. In the Mara Bueno Silva fight, and we know how good Mara Bueno Silva is in terms of the BJJ game, we saw that once Maros did get down Bueno Silva didn't get up. Maros took her down at the end of the first round there, controlled her for 1:44, and then Maros took her down in the second round at 2 minutes and 30 and controlled her for 2 minutes and 32 seconds there. And I go back and watch Agapova. Agapova has a 33% takedown defense, which is terrible. Cortez took her down 4 times, not the biggest deal in the world, but what stuck out to me was how easy Shanna Dobson took her down 2 times. So I think if Maros can mix in takedowns here, which I think it's possible. She shot 22 in her career. If she can get on top of Agapova, I feel like she can win minutes there. And I think in terms of the striking, I think it'll be very close. You have the power of Agapova, but you have the volume of Maros. Not a lot's landing, but you have the volume there. So I think it's actually a very, very close fight. And I don't really understand the line here. I think there could be some recency bias because Agapova did look so good in her last fight, and we haven't seen Maros in a long time. People might have forgot about her, but I like Maros's game. I think she's very well-rounded. She's very good on the mat, very good control. She's very tough as well. I don't believe she's ever been finished. And of course, that volume, if she can improve that accuracy, build on that accuracy like she did in her last fight, I think this could be a very close fight. So again, I don't understand this line. We have Agapova opening up -200. She went up and down, and she's currently back to -200. And Maros opened up +170. She's currently +170. The fight goes to decision, -230. The fight doesn't go to decision, +170. And I'm kind of tempted on the Iron Lady here, but I know that it's going to be a very unpopular pick. I feel like a lot of people are going to be on Agapova, but I'm tempted on Maros as a dog. I just don't see this fight being this one-sided in terms of the betting line. What are your thoughts on it, and what are your thoughts on the fight goes or doesn't go?
So when Maros was supposed to fight Firo, I had a big bet on Firo, and I'm very high on Manon Firo. But when I went back and I watched the tape on Marina, I remember saying to myself, "Man, Manon's going to have her hands full here." And Maros has done a very good job of using her wrestling to win minutes. She's also got a professional boxing background in the Ukraine, just like Agapova does. Their stand-up skills should be pretty close. It's just people have forgotten about Marina Maros. She's pulled out of her last 4 fights. She hasn't fought since 2020. But a win over Mara Bueno Silva is a good win. And coming off of that, if she's still improving, and she's only 30 years old, she's in the prime of her career, she can absolutely make this fight close and very dirty. This is a very high-level opponent here for Agapova. It's just the Iron Lady has got to be one of the worst nicknames ever. I mean, she's like the tinfoil lady, this lady can't even get to the goddamn ring. How do you call her the Iron Lady? It makes no sense. If she pulls out of this fight, I'm starting a Twitter campaign to change the nickname to, I don't even know. I mean, like she reminds me of some of these basketball players that just play like 10 games a year and then they just quit. So yeah, man, it's hard. It's hard to make cases for Maros here, but on the tape, if she's still the same fighter, this is going to be close.
Yeah, but sadly, none of it matters because this fight's probably not going to happen. But if it does, I might be looking at a dog shot on Maros, and yeah, I kind of like that. So,
and let me say, Brady, let me just say, when Maros pulls out, I want Firo Agapova. That's what I want. I put that out on Twitter today. If the Iron Lady makes it 5 in a row and pulls out of this one because of another flash photography injury, I want Manon Firo fighting Maria Agapova. That would be an absolute banger.
That'd be a banger. But I hope this fight happens. I mean, I want to see what happens with the bad blood. I'm curious to hear the interviews and all that. It should be a very, very fun fight there. But I think we can move on to the next one. And here we go, Weezy. There's always that one stinker on the card. Some cards have a lot of them. This card only has one of them. So, I mean, this card's good, but my goodness, this fight is a mess. And like I said earlier in the video, this reminds me of Priscilla Beating against Fire Fist, just a very sloppy, ugly fight that is so ugly and bad that it's somewhat exciting. And I feel like that's the case for this fight. We have Nikolai Negumereanu going against Kennedy Nzechukwu. We have Negumereanu, 27 years old, 6 foot with a 70-inch reach. Nzechukwu, 29 years old, 6'5" with an 83-inch reach. Kennedy, 2 years older, 5-inch height advantage and a 5-inch reach advantage. He's going to be so much bigger, very huge for the weight class, whereas Negumereanu kind of small for the weight class here. So we'll take a look at the last few fights. Negumereanu, he has 4-1 in his last 5 fights, made his debut against Saperbag Safarov, lost by decision, won a split decision against Alexa Kamor. Went back and watched that fight. I thought you could definitely make a case that Kamor actually won that fight, and then I thought he really should have won because the ref, for some reason, did not take a point from Negumereanu. He grabbed the cage like 50 times in that 3rd round, and I thought he was going to take a point, but ended up not doing it. So, yeah, he probably should have lost that fight, honestly. And then he comes back and knocks out Ike Villanueva in the 1st round. Kenny Nzechukwu, he makes his debut. I want to say it was against Paul Craig. Loses by submission in that fight, in a fight where he was winning up until he lost late in that 3rd round. A decision win against Darko Stosic, a knockout win against Carlos Ulberg, a knockout win against Danilo Marquez, and a knockout loss to Da Un Jung. This fight is so ugly. I can't even stand it, man. Like Nzechukwu, this is a guy that his path to victory is getting his ass beat for a round and a half up until his opponent gasses out, and then he takes over. Like in the Ulberg fight, this guy was getting his ass beat for the first round and a half, and then knocks out Ulberg. Ulberg slows down. Against Danilo Marquez, this guy was getting his ass beat for 2 rounds, got his back taken for the majority of the fight. Marquez gasses out, and then he gets knocked out there. And then against Da Un Jung, it was the weirdest thing ever. Kennedy is known for his durability, and he's very durable. He's known for that. But in the Da Un Jung fight, it's like Jung lands an elbow. The first elbow completely glances off of the guard of Kennedy Nzechukwu. It glances off. And then the next elbow hits the guard of Kennedy Nzechukwu, and it doesn't look like it lands like at all. And it wobbles him. Like he's wobbling back. He looks hurt. And then ultimately Da Un Jung puts him out, which like surprised me because the one thing you could usually count on Kennedy for is cardio and durability. So that's not a good look. But Negumereanu, this guy's awful. He's terrible. He has a 29% striking defense. This is the male version of Priscilla Beating. He has no striking defense. His head's on the center line. His hands are down, and his head is right there to be punched. But the problem with Nzechukwu, if you do bet on him, which I don't recommend betting on this fight, the problem with that is he's going to be coming from behind. He doesn't start fighting up until like a couple minutes into the 1st round. He comes from behind, so he's going to come in with a high guard. Negumereanu is going to come forward, throw punches. Some might land, some might not. Kennedy's going to have the better cardio. Kennedy's going to hopefully have some durability here. If he gets this fight extended, I think it's winnable, but this fight's sloppy. It's gross. Both of these fighters I'm not too high on. I don't even know who to pick because I can see Negumereanu, being more active. He does come forward. He does like to brawl. And I could see Kennedy just shelling up and losing by points a little bit, getting behind in the scorecards. But I could also see Kennedy surviving that 1st round, Negumereanu slowing down, Kennedy taking over as the fight goes on. He starts letting his hands go, and when he does, he's going to have a big reach advantage, height advantage, and Negumereanu blocks punches with his face. So if I had to pick, I guess I'll go with Kennedy, but I think I might look at this from like a live betting standpoint. But as of now, I just don't see myself betting on this fight. Weezy, what are your thoughts on this dumpster fire? But like you said, this fight should be entertaining in a really weird, ugly way.
Yeah, man. Like it's gonna be like a Three Stooges episode, man. It's gonna be great, dude. I can't wait for this one. I mean, I never even came up with a pick on this fight because I was just coming up with too much comedy material. I could do comedy on this fight for probably 40. You guys would be here until well past dinner. Let me just give you what I wrote up on it in terms of advantages for each fighter. Negumereanu, 2 years younger, one more pro fight. He's the better, more diverse finisher in comparison to Kennedy. In grappling, Nikolai will probably be the more willing grappler. However, neither of these guys grapple much. And Nzechukwu is he's a freak, dude. He's 5 inches taller, 5-inch reach advantage. He's a southpaw. He's got a head like an Easter Island statue. In experience, he's got 24 more minutes in the pro cage, 4 more UFC level fights, 35 more minutes in the UFC cage, fought almost 2/3 of his career at the UFC level. So a big experience advantage here over Negan Mariana. He's much longer. He throws way more volume, and he's more accurate and more powerful. And he's 20% more defensively responsible than his opponent. You won't find many guys that make Priscilla Cachoeira look defensively responsible, but Nikolai Negumereanu is one of them. He has 29.8% striking defense. It's like throwing a baseball at a giant brick wall, you know? I mean, you know, if you could throw the thing more than 10 feet, you're hitting it. So it's really bad. The defense is just really bad. Grappling, despite being out takedown attempted at a 45-1 ratio in his UFC career, Kennedy has only yielded 17% control time against, and he's shown 80% takedown defense. So he's been good, kind of like keeping fights standing when his opponents try to take him down. And Kennedy has fought the much more experienced and higher level of competition thus far in the UFC. You know, what the hell is Kennedy Nchekwu good at? You know, I mean, he comes out in that zombie stance with the hands up. He stands right in front of his opponent, and he does nothing. It's the actual Homer Simpson defense. It's as if somebody said, I don't know what it is that you can do, but you've got great conditioning. You got a head like an Easter Island statue, so you'll be hard to knock out. Just stand in front of your opponent like a zombie with your hands up like this and just wait for him to tire out. And it's worked. It worked against Danilo Marquez. It worked against Alberg. People who say Nchekwu isn't durable, you get punched in the sack by Darko Stosic 14 times and then fight a full 15 minutes. The guy's durable. He's got tremendous conditioning. He's an athletic freak. And he's with all those gifts, has managed to never put anything together. You know, I mean, like, what has he done that's been good in the cage? Even the Contender Series fights, when he came into the Contender Series fights, I think he was 2-0 as a pro. That's how little experience he had. And he did nothing in those fights. He got a knockout, I think, in the second one. And then you got Negan Mariana. He's got decent judo. He gets some throws. He mixes it up. Dude's got a great chin. I mean, how the hell can you possibly have 30% striking defense and not be knocked out in the 205-pound division, having fought 31 minutes in the UFC cage? It's unbelievable. Everything that his opponents have thrown has landed, and he still has never been knocked out. So the guy's got a tremendous chin. This is going to be so much fun. Like I said, this is like the Three Stooges in the UFC. If we can just get, like, who would be the third stooge if we were going to put him as the ref?
It's got to be Keith Peterson.
It's got to be either Keith Peterson or Beltran, right? Like, you know, you like maybe they'll pull on Beltran's beard, get it out of the. This is great, man. I don't know what to say about this fight. I really don't care who wins. I won't be betting it. But you know what's probably going to happen is, since neither one of these guys is any good, I don't see any one of them finishing the other. This probably goes to decision.
It probably does.
You know, because like Negan Mariana, you're not knocking that dude out without a brick. And it's not like Nchekwu. Well, I mean, you know, Nchekwu can be finished. He's been finished in both of his losses, but like, I don't know what to do here, man. Maybe fight goes to decision. Maybe 1-800-GAMBLER. I'm just gonna laugh.
Yeah, I mean, it's hilarious. Sometimes you just gotta sit back and just enjoy it, like the Ji Young Kim Fire Fist Priscilla catch a beating. Just sit back, enjoy it. I think it'll be fun. I think it'll be entertaining. But as far as putting money on it, it's just really hard for me to do so. And we take a look at the odds, and we see that Kennedy Nzechukwu opened up -125. He's now -150. Nikolai Negumereanu opened up +105. He's now +130. The fight goes to decision +140. Fight doesn't go to decision -180. I saw some people talking about the over in the fight. I mean, if it's set at 1.5, I potentially would like that over. But other than that, I think it's a pretty easy stay away and the lowest level fight on the card by a mile.
Yeah, incredibly low. It would be really cool because they're both young. You know, Kennedy's 29, Nikolai's 27. If either one of these guys could really start putting it together, like I'd like to see Kennedy maybe start to wrestle a little bit. You know, maybe instead of just standing on a napkin in front of your opponent, maybe he could move his feet every once in a while. I'd like to see him take the next step somewhere because he's got great conditioning. He's got a little bit of power. He's got freakish length and size for the division, and he's a good athlete. If we could see him start to move his feet, start to strike a little bit, cut some angles, mix in some wrestling, dude, this guy could be fucking dangerous. He's got so many of those things that you need in order to be a successful fighter at this level. But he doesn't seem to have any kind of a game plan at all. And that, you know, and I guess in order to have a game plan, you have to have some sort of skill set to make a game plan. I don't know when that's going to come for Kennedy, but if it ever does, this guy's going to be scary. And the same thing for Nikolai. I mean, if you can't knock a dude out and he's got good conditioning and good heart and he can get some takedowns and he could push a pace, that dude could be a problem too. I just want to see one of these guys start to put it together a little bit.
Yeah, if anything, I think it'd be Kennedy. I mean, this guy has all the physical attributes you're looking for: 6'5", 83-inch reach, durability, cardio. Like he has a lot of good traits. It's just can't seem to put anything together. Can't seem to get started early in the fight. It has to kind of wake up a little bit. If he could put something together, I think he could be successful. And he's only 29. He's still young, so I think he has time. And Negan Mariana, like I said, he's only 27. So I think, you know, like you said, one of these guys could be something, but as of now, I'm just not high on neither.
Yeah, I got to agree, man. Like, it just doesn't seem to be any process to Kennedy's game. And if he did have a process and a skill set to match up with a good game plan and some coaching, the sky's the limit for this kid. I would just love to see it happen because he could be a great fighter. And I believe that about Nikolai, too.
Definitely. I'm surprised you didn't pitch like a Netflix show like you did with Fat John and Huggy Bear. You're going to get this on Netflix. It'd be hilarious.
I didn't have a great Netflix idea, but, you know, this could be like, you know, and I think DXJC said in the chat that Tyone should be the third stooge in the cage. And I think that's a perfect chance. We could have a Three Stooges spinoff here or something, you know, where they're just hitting each other in the head with shovels and like they don't even know that they got hit. You know, it'd be great, dude. There's comedy here.
Definitely for sure. But let's move on from that complete dumpster fire. It should be a good fight, though. We have a very good fight. We have Marina Rodriguez going against Yan Jinan. We have Rodriguez, who is 34 years old, 5'6" with a 65-inch reach. Yan Jinan, she is 32 years old, 5'5" with a 63-inch reach. Rodriguez, 2 years older, 1-inch height advantage, and a 2-inch reach advantage as well. Rodriguez, 3-1-1 draw in her last 5 fights. Had that draw against Cynthia Calvillo. Had the decision loss against Carla Esparza, knockout win against Amanda Ribas, a decision win against Watterson and Dern. Yan Jinan, she is 4-1 in her last 5 fights. Her last loss came to Carla Esparza, and it was like by first-round knockout, I believe, which a lot of people were not expecting. But this is a fight where I think both fighters are going to kind of get the fight they want. When you take a look at Marina Rodriguez and throughout her UFC career, you know, fighters are trying to take her down, and that's kind of been a talking point of her game, and that's her takedown defense. It is now 67%, so it has definitely improved, you know, since the Mackenzie Dern fight where Dern did go 1 for 8. But, you know, you take a look at her career, and her takedown defense has hurt her in the past against Random Marcos, of all people. It was a draw. Marcos was able to take down Marina Rodriguez twice in that fight and control for 5 minutes and 43 seconds. Cynthia Calvillo took her down 3 times in that fight, controlled her for 5 minutes and 4 seconds. Carla Esparza took her down 5 times in that fight and controlled her for 8 minutes and 54 seconds. When she is losing or not having success, when, you know, the draws with Calvillo and Marcos, it's because people are trying to take her down. And the interesting thing about this fight, Weezy, is Yan Jinan, there's a good chance that she's not going to try to do that. And even if she does, Marina Rodriguez, you know, that's all she's been working on is that takedown defense, that get-up game. And even off her back, she does, you know, have some promising things. Like she's very active. She throws elbows. Mm-hmm. So I think this fight's going to primarily stay standing. And at that point, it's going to be a fight that Rodriguez isn't really used to, because she's used to people trying to take her down. Dern tried to take her down. Watterson tried to take her down. Ribas tried to take her down. Esparza, Calvillo, Marcos. Like, she's going to get the fight she wants. And I think that's very dangerous, because Rodriguez is no joke on the feet. But same thing with Yan Xiaonan. She's not as well. But I think the more dangerous fighter is Rodriguez. So, yeah, Weezy, this is a really good fight, a very high-level fight as well. And I think it's on the prelims, which is pretty crazy. But what do you think about this one?
Yeah, very high level. So for Rodriguez, we got some measurables advantage here in that she's an inch taller and has a 2-inch reach advantage in experience. 2 more professional fights for Rodriguez, 60 more minutes in the pro cage, 2 more UFC level fights, 35 more minutes in the UFC cage, slightly better and more diverse finisher, more durable. Striking, she's accurate, she's powerful, she's got a slightly better ratio than Yan. And in the strength of schedule, Marina has fought and beaten the much better level of competition. For Xiaonan, she's 2 years younger. Yan is a very busy striker. She throws 1.5 significant strike attempts for every one her opponent throws. So she's seriously out-voluming her opponents. She's been very defensively responsible as well, boasting a 61.73% striking defense over a 7-fight sample size. So she can absolutely handle herself on the feet and win minutes there with her volume and her defense. And in the grappling, Yan's efficient with her takedown attempts. She's got 6 of 8, and she's averaging more than a minute of control time per successful takedown. And Rodriguez has been controlled for almost 39 minutes on the ground on 13 successful takedowns. So she does have a tendency to lose minutes on the ground and get stuck there. Since Yan has been the more active offensive wrestler, I think there's a chance she could win some minutes in the grappling exchanges if there are any. But in terms of the strength of schedule, I like Marina here. In terms of the power on the feet, I like Marina here. And then you look at Yan, 7 fights, 6 takedowns in those 7 fights, but only 7.5% control time for. So in 97 minutes, that's about 7 minutes of control time on 6 takedowns, on 8 takedown attempts. It doesn't feel like at those ratios that she's going to win enough minutes on the ground in order to win this fight there. She's going to need to win a lot of minutes on the feet and get some minutes on the ground. And Marina Rodriguez, her striking is just on a different level. She's dangerous. She's more powerful. She's going to have the reach advantage here and the height advantage. And I think she's absolutely got the power advantage here too. So, while Yan might be throwing more punches, I think Marina will be landing the bigger ones. And if you're going to give Marina Rodriguez the fight that she wants, I don't think you're going to beat her. She's too technical. She's too good. I think she's going to beat Yan, and I think she's going to finish her.
Oh, wow, finish it. I mean, I could see it. Marina is no joke on the feet, and like you said, she's going to get the fight that she wants. Nobody's going to try to take her down. I mean, maybe Xiaonan tries to take her down, but you take a look at Xiaonan, and the only person that she has taken down pretty much was a washed Carolina, where she took her down 5 times. We know Carolina's on a 5-fight skid at this point, and I think she potentially retired as well. But yeah, I just don't see her going for takedowns here. If she does, I don't know if she'll be successful, and I think it will play on the feet. And at that point, I think that the volume in terms of the numbers could be close, but I just think the power is going to be, in the advantage of Rodriguez, and pretty certainly so. So we take a look at the odds, and if I can, there they are. So Rodriguez opened up -180, jumped all the way down to -280. She's now at -255. Yan Xiaonan opened up at +160. She's currently at +215. Looks like money's coming in on Yan Xiaonan as of now, and I understand it. I think it should be a close fight. I got to go Rodriguez here for the power. I think she's the better striker overall. I think she can hurt Yan Xiaonan as well. So I like Rodriguez to win, but I'm going to wait and see where that line goes. It looks like Yan Xiaonan as of now is a pretty popular dog, and again, I get it. But I do like Rodriguez in this spot. The fight goes to decision -175. The fight doesn't go to decision is +135. Any thoughts on the money line? Do you think it should be closer? I think it should be a little closer. Or do you think it should be wider, or you think it's just right?
Yeah, see, I think all the finishing equity here is with Rodriguez. We've seen Yan in the UFC. She has not finished any of her 6 wins. She's a volume striker. She's a point fighter. Marina, spends a lot of her fights, 9 UFC fights, 40 takedown attempts against defending takedowns. I feel like if she's not spammed with takedown attempts, she's going to be able to get that striking game working. And over a long enough sample size, a 15-minute fight, she's going to find that big shot that finishes the fight. And Jan has been finished in both of her losses. So I wouldn't really touch the time props here. I feel like if you're on the underside, just bet Marina inside the distance. And if you're on the over side, that you can maybe bet that on its own. Or you could, if you like the over, maybe you think that Jan out point fights her and you can get a decision prop that'd be even better on Jan by decision than the fight goes to decision. So that's a couple of ways to look at it here. I won't be touching the time props. I'm going to be looking potentially at Marina inside the distance here.
Sounds good to me. And yeah, I mean, Mbe in the chat saying her power is overrated. I mean, she cuts people up. She bloodies them up. Remember that? I think it was a Sparza fight. Sparza was bleeding bad. And we saw what she did to Amanda Hebos. I went back and watched that today. I don't know what Herb Dean was doing. You remember that? Herb Dean like touched her and stopped the fight, it looked like. But he just said he didn't stop the fight. And then she got knocked out again. And poor Amanda Hebos. That was bad.
That was bad. It was rough to watch because Herb's done that a couple of times, man. Remember the Ben Rothwell versus Marcos Rogerio de Lima fight? Like Herb was like reaching in to stop it, and de Lima's just punishing Rothwell. And then finally, like Herb didn't stop the fight, but then de Lima just got up off of Rothwell and walked away, and then Herb was like, okay. So yeah, it's not the first time Herb's done that, but we gotta hope that he never gets into Steve Mazzagatti or Mario Yamasaki range here and ruin somebody's life. So let's hope that doesn't happen.
Yep, definitely. We'll move on to the next fight, and I'm looking forward to this one. This is the last fight on the prelims. We have Jalen Turner going against Jamie Mullarkey. We have Jalen Turner, 26 years old, 6'3" with a 77-inch reach. Jamie Mullarkey, 27 years old, 6 foot with a 74-inch reach. We'll take a look at the last 5 fights between the two. We have Jalen Turner, 4-1 in his last 5 fights, a knockout win against Callum Potter, decision loss to Matt Frivola, a knockout win against Josh Kulabau, submission wins against Brock Weaver and Uros Medic. Mullarkey, 3-2 in his last 5 fights, made his debut against Brad Riddell. That fight was an absolute war, lost the decision there. Very close fight with Faraz Ziam. I personally thought he won, but it was a decision loss there. Comma-worthy knockout win in like the first minute, and then a knockout win against Devontae Smith, who is also on this card. You take a look at Jalen Turner. This guy is going to be younger by a year, and this guy is absolutely huge for the division. Jamie Mullarkey is going from fighting a 5'9", 5'10" Devontae Smith to a massive 6'3" Jalen Turner, and Turner's going to have a 6-inch height advantage and also a 3-inch reach advantage as well. I actually thought the reach would be more than that, and it does look like on tape when you watch Turner, he looks a lot longer than his opponents. This guy is very, very long, and he's dangerous as well. And what I also like about Turner is he's dangerous wherever the fight goes. His grappling game is very, very good. He has a couple submissions on his record, but mostly knockouts, 2 submissions as of late. He has a ton of power in his hands as well. What I don't like about Jamie Mullarkey is the fact that he has a 45% striking defense. He is very hittable. He is very tough. He can eat a lot of those punches, but you don't want to be eating punches against a very powerful Jalen Turner here. This is another fight, Weezy, where there's not a lot of them on the card, but this fight just screams absolute violence to me. And you take a look at their finish rates, and Jalen Turner is an all-out finisher, a 100% finish rate, 73% by knockout, 27% by submission. And Jamie Mullarkey, he's a finisher as well, a 94% finish rate, 67% by knockout, 27% by submission. So both these guys are finishers, and both these guys, when they do lose, they are losing inside the distance. Jalen Turner has been knocked out 3 times, and Jamie Mullarkey has been knocked out 2 times. So I think someone gets finished here. I think violence is definitely the answer in this fight. As far as making a pick, I do lean towards the Jalen Turner. I like the size. I think on the feet, he's going to be causing Jamie Mullarkey problems with the range, with the power, and with how hittable Mullarkey is. And I think if this fight does hit the mat, if Jamie Mullarkey was go the takedown route, I've seen Jalen Turner hit reversals and sweeps. I've seen him get submissions as well. And I did not like what I saw with Jamie Mullarkey against Faraz Ziam, getting reversed 2 times against Ziam. He also got reversed against Brad Riddell. I just think Turner is going to be able to have success really anywhere this fight goes. So I like Turner here, and I do like violence even more than I like Turner. Weezy, what do you like in this one?
Yeah, I'm with you there, man. This is such a good fight, dude. I can't wait for this one. For the Turner advantages here, I mean, obviously in the measurables, he's got huge advantages in the measurables here. He's a year younger. He's 3 inches taller, 3-inch reach advantage, and he's a southpaw. Um, the experience, Jalin has fought a higher percentage of his career at the UFC level than Malarkey. It's 43.75% for Jalin, 22% for Malarkey. He has 3 more UFC level fights and almost 10 more minutes in the UFC cage. Slightly better finisher than Malarkey, and that's saying something because Turner's 100% and Malarkey's 91 according to my stats, or 92. In the striking, he's got a huge size, length, and athletic advantages for Turner in the striking. Way better striking ratios. His striking ratio is 1.5 to 1, while Malarkey is 0.68 to 1. He's 7% more accurate. He gets more knockdowns per 15 minutes, 1.3 to 0.68 for Malarkey. And Jalin is a volume monster, throwing 13 significant strike attempts per minute, while his opponents only throw 7.5. And Malarkey, on the other hand, is getting out-volumed by his opponents. While Malarkey's throwing 7.46 per minute, his opponents are throwing 8.18. So basically an advantage everywhere in the striking statistics for Turner. More accurate, more powerful, more efficient, more volume. But Turner has been knocked down once, while Malarkey's never been knocked down. But in that Riddell fight, we saw Malarkey just absorb a ton of damage in that fight. That fight just didn't get stopped. In the grappling, we got Turner. He's been very efficient in the grappling exchanges. So this is interesting here. We got Jalin Turner has attempted 4 takedowns in the UFC, and his opponents have attempted 23, right? So is it, like for every one that Turner's attempting, his opponents are attempting 6 takedowns. But Turner is out-controlling his opponents 21.36% to 12.61%. So he's been really efficient. He can get reversals. He can stand up with his length. He can threaten with submissions because of that length on the ground. So really nice little grappling numbers there for Turner. Despite the fact he doesn't spend a lot of energy going for the grappling, he's winning minutes there. And in the strength of schedule, Jalin has fought and lost to the tougher and more experienced competition, and he's beaten opponents with a better win-loss record. And in addition to that, Jalin has shown 78% takedown defense on 23 attempts against in 7 fights. So, he's pretty good at dictating where the fight takes place, in addition to being much longer and having much better striking metrics. For Malarkey, he's got a couple more pro fights, 65 more minutes of pro cage time. Malarkey has more knockdowns per total significant strikes landed percent than Turner at 1.71 to Turner's 1.4. And Turner's been knocked down while Malarkey's never been knocked down. Malarkey's been the more active wrestler. He's attempted 28 takedowns in 4 fights. So we do know that if Malarkey doesn't like how it's going on the feet, he'll try to change levels. He'll try to change the way the fight is going and make adjustments. So that's comforting to know if you think that Malarkey can win this fight, because he's got good boxing and he's shown a lot of power in the UFC. You'd just like to know that he can win some minutes on the ground here too, if you're going to be comfortable betting him. I'm pretty heavily on the Turner side here. One thing that I noticed that made me comfortable in Turner, Brady, was Malarkey does pressure quite a bit. And there are some guys that when they've got these length advantages, they don't deal with pressure. But in this case, Turner's got good footwork. And I like the way that he's dealt with pressure in the past. He plants his feet, he throws back, he counters, and he moves his feet well. He cuts defensive angles that allow him to keep his feet moving and doesn't allow his opponent to kind of back him up and take away that reach advantage that he has. I'm feeling very good about Jalin Turner here, and I already put a pretty big bet down on him earlier today.
Here we go. Yeah, lots of love in the chat for Jamie Malarkey, and I get it. People really like these really tough guys. And shout out to Blood Money, who does videos as well. He brought up a point, and if I can pick it up here, I don't even know where it's at. The chat is moving so fast, but he was talking about how Frivola was able to take down Turner, and I'd argue that Frivola is a much, much, much better wrestler than Malarkey. Frivola is a wrestler, whereas Malarkey, it's kind of weird. You go back and watch tape on Malarkey outside of the UFC. He did like no wrestling at all, but he comes into the UFC, he takes down Zion, he takes down Riddell. But I just don't think Malarkey's wrestling is on anywhere the same level as Frivola. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely, I agree with that. And if you watch the Frivola fight, yeah, Jalen Turner lost that fight on the scorecards, but that was not a dominant performance by Matt Frivola by any stretch of the imagination. Jalen Turner got up every damn time Frivola took him down. So Frivola won minutes on the ground, but like I say, he's got a college wrestling background, a high-level high school wrestling background, and has been a black belt with those guys up over there at Serra-Longo, I believe, or maybe he's down there with Quarantillo as well in Gracie, Tampa. But this guy's a much better grappler than Jamie Malarkey, who's a kickboxer by trade first.
Yeah, and even in the Frivola fight, Turner was doing great things. He reversed Frivola multiple times. He was able to work his way back up. I actually was really impressed with what I saw. So if Jamie Malarkey was to win, I think that would be the path. I think it would be takedowns, getting control. I just think that Turner is very dangerous off his back. He's very good with reversals and sweeps, maybe ends up on top. And then on the feet, like he's going to be so much bigger. Malarkey's very hittable. But, you know, what I like more than even the Turner money line is going to be that fight doesn't go to decision, which is a crazy price, which of course we cannot get it. But the fight doesn't go to decision is at -170. The fight goes to decision is at +130. We see that Turner opened up as a -150 favorite, went all the way to -130. He's now down to -140. Malarkey opened up +130. He is now +120. So yeah, I'm going to say Turner either knocks him out, maybe a club and sub if Malarkey does grapple, maybe submits him off his back. But I think Turner finishes Malarkey here. But what I like a little bit more is that fight doesn't go at -170. I think that's a steal if I could bet it. But as you know, once the lines do come out for books, we can bet on that. Probably won't be there. But like the under 2.5, I'd look at. I think violence is a good spot for this one.
Excellent spot for this one, because I think that's how Malarkey wins if he does win, you know, is that he catches that chin for Turner. Turner's been knocked out in 3 of his 5 losses, and Malarkey has shown a lot of power here in the UFC. But, I mean, how often can you get a fight doesn't go to decision at -180 when in 25 combined wins, 24 of them have been inside the distance for these two guys? That's exactly 96% in their combined wins are finishing inside the distance. So getting a fight doesn't go to decision at -180, that would be something that's an auto bet. You got to bet that.
Yeah, we got to take advantage of those spots. Just like Zion Mckenney under 2.5 -125. It made no sense. Mckenney, when he finishes, it's early. When he gets finished, it's early. It doesn't make much sense to me at all. Maybe because it's like a lower weight class. I mean, but they had like Josie and Nunez last week was like -190. Fight doesn't go. So I don't know what they're doing here.
Yeah, and like 2 minutes into that fight, you were like, there's no chance this fight's seeing the scorecards. That's a women's fight at 145 pounds. So yeah, this is a great violence spot. I would encourage anybody to bet the violence in this one.
Yep. Hopefully, Bet Online gets those out tonight, or Bovada even. What did the line open up at? I think Turner opened up around -150, dropped down, and then he's now back to -140. I'm really curious to see where the line does move. Weezy, is that on under 2.5? Parlay that rather than a side. Yeah, I just play it straight personally, but I think it could be a solid parlay piece for sure. Blood Money saying Turner slows down and Malarkey is a junkyard dog who only gets stronger, all while working his opponent's body like Smith. If there's a finish, it's Turner getting finished. I think either could get finished, honestly, but I do lean on the Turner side.
I want to just say that I don't think Turner slows down, man.
No, I didn't think.
Did you watch that Frivola fight?
Yeah.
Did you see the pace of the Frivola fight was absolutely bonkers? In that fight, he is absolutely having a great third round, and he's breathing with his mouth closed most of the time. And then on the other hand, Malarkey is getting absolutely murdered by Brad Riddell in the third round. So, you know, in 2 fights where we saw, you know, very high pace in both those fights, I think Malarkey handled it worse than Turner did.
Yeah, I thought Turner looked fine, at least like later in that fight against Frivola. And then didn't he like get poked in the eye or something as well?
He did,
That was
but
like
there,
a
yeah,
knee
there
bar.
was a
Okay.
break because he got
Yeah.
poked right at the end of the second round.
Hmm.
So that could be one of the reasons why he didn't slow down as much, because there was like it was like with 5 seconds up in the second round. I think they took like a minute and a half off because of the eye poke. Then the 5 seconds, then another minute break. So maybe that's why.
Yeah, for sure. But let's move on to the main card. Before we do so, let's take a look, 199 in here. If you all can smash the like button, it feels good getting back to our regular numbers since NFL is now over. So yeah, like the video. Do appreciate all the likes. And we'll talk about this main card opener, which, I feel like there could be a couple different spots to put in here, especially like the Rodriguez fight. I feel like the Rodriguez fight should be on here instead of this fight. But yeah, this is kind of lowish level, I guess you could say. Sergey Spivak, 27 years old, 6'3" with a 78-inch reach. Greg Hardy, 33 years old, 6'5", 80-inch reach here. And Spivak, 6 years younger. Spivak, a 2-inch height disadvantage, and Spivak, a 2-inch reach disadvantage. Spivak is 3-2 in his last 5 fights, a decision loss against Marcin Tybura, a win against Carlos Felipe by decision, a knockout win against Jared Vanderaa, a decision win against Alexei Oleinik, and then a knockout loss against Tom Aspinall. As far as Greg Hardy, 2-3 in his last 5 fights, a decision loss to Alexander Volkov, a decision win against Jorgen De Castro, a knockout win against Maurice Green, a knockout loss against Marcin Tybura, and a knockout loss against Tai Tuivasa. So this one is very interesting. We got a heavyweight fight here. Like I said, kind of low level. I feel like either Greg Hardy knocks out Spivak in the first round, or Spivak takes down Greg Hardy, eventually gets him out of there. I really don't see it going any other way. What it comes down to for me is Greg Hardy going to knock him out before Spivak gets to the takedown. Spivak, he's a solid wrestler. You take a look at who he has taken down in the UFC. He took down Tai Tuivasa, and he took him down quite a bit, which was pretty good. But as we know, Tai Tuivasa doesn't have the best takedown defense in the world. He took down Jared Vanderaa as well and ended up finishing him. And then he also took down Carlos Felipe. Those are the 3 fights that he has landed takedowns in. But there's some fights where, he has not went for takedowns. Like in the Walt Harris fight, he really didn't get an opportunity to. Walt Harris kind of starched him early, and that very well could happen here. In the Tybura fight, he didn't really go for a ton of takedowns. And even in the Felipe fight, I remember being on Spivak in this fight, and I'm like yelling at the TV for the first 2 rounds, like, dude, go for takedowns. And he's not going for takedowns for some reason. And then he finally goes for them in the 3rd round and gets them. So I guess my concern with Spivak is he going to come out here and wrestle early and often? If he goes out there in that, like he did in the Felipe fight, and waits and kind of strikes with Hardy, he probably gets knocked out. But if I'm laying over minus 200 on Sergey Spivak here, I want to know for a fact that he's going to come in here and shoot takedowns within the first 30 seconds. If he doesn't, I feel like Hardy's very live for a knockout. I didn't like what I saw from Spivak against Tom Aspinall, but I guess we got to let it slide a little bit. He did come in there on short notice, but he looked like a bum in that fight. And then he went for like a half-ass takedown. I don't even think they called it a takedown attempt. Tom was able to, shrug it off. I guess they did call it a takedown attempt, but like half-ass takedown attempt. Tom Aspinall shrugged it off and just elbowed him and knocked him out. So yeah, this is a very sketchy fight in my opinion. A very sketchy heavyweight fight that I don't want a ton to do with. Another fight that I have violent circled because I think Hardy is very live for a first-round knockout. And I think that if Spivak gets this fight down to the mat at any point in time, the fight's going to be over. Greg Hardy's ground game is absolutely horrendous. His takedown defense is good. I really like his takedown defense, especially early and in the first round. But if Spivak is able to somehow get this down to the mat, I think Spivak finishes him because Greg Hardy, his ground game is just horrible. His cardio is horrible. He doesn't know what to do. It looks like he kind of quit in the Tybura fight as well. So I think someone's getting finished. As far as picking a winner, I really don't know. It's a tough fight to call. Weezy, help me out with this one. You think this is worthy on the main card? Because I think there's better options.
Yeah, I agree that we could have Rodriguez Xiaonan on there. We could have Turner Malarkey on there. There's a lot of good fights on this card that could be on here. But Hardy always makes the main card. He's kind of like a love him or hate him guy, and I think most people hate him. But Spivak is one of those young heavyweights that's got a lot of upside, and he's got a good rounded mixed martial arts game. His boxing is serviceable. His takedowns are good, and his ground and pound is excellent, and his submission game, ability to win minutes on the ground are all very, very high level for this division. We don't see a lot of grapplers, in this division, and the ones that do it well, they win easily. When you see guys like Romanov going in there, Espino, Blades, if even Stipe, when you can wrestle, you can win minutes in the heavyweight division because there's just not a lot of well-rounded, good athlete guys in this division. So the fact that Spivak is pretty good everywhere is going to allow him to be able to fight the fight that he wants against Hardy. He's going to have to shoot for takedowns here, but I'm of the opinion that even if this stays standing, Spivak will probably be okay. I don't think he'll get knocked out. I don't think he'll get finished. Greg Hardy's striking is not Tom Aspinall's striking. It's just not. Spivak's been doing this longer, and he's 6 years younger. Who's the better wrestler? Sergey Spivak. Who's the more well-rounded fighter here? Sergey Spivak. 6 years younger too. It's going to be Hardy, who's the bigger guy. Hardy, who's had 11 of his 12 fights at the UFC level. But we saw what happened when Marcin Tybura took him down. It was over immediately. And Marcin Tybura, let me tell you something about that dude. He doesn't really shoot for takedowns. He's kind of like Jim Miller. He's great on the ground, but he doesn't really care if he gets it there. If it winds up going there, he does very well. But I think that Hardy got a kick caught there, and that's the only reason that fight even went to the ground. So I really believe that Spivak should easily win this fight. I don't think Greg Hardy is as good on the feet as everybody thinks he is, and I think he's much worse on the ground than anybody gives him credit for. And I think Sergey Spivak is smart enough to know where he needs to take this fight in order to win it. And I think he will do that. And I think he's going to definitely finish Greg Hardy inside the distance with ground and pound.
Yeah, definitely makes sense to me, but I can see it now. I lay minus 230 on Spivak, and I'm yelling at the TV to shoot takedowns. And I will disagree a little bit in terms of the striking. I mean, Sergey Spivak, I just don't like his striking. I mean, against Alexei Oleinik, especially at distance, Spivak outlanded Oleinik 55-52. I think that's a big concern. So we only outlanded Oleinik by 3 strikes. And you take a look at who Spivak's really struck with. Tybura, who's not a knockout threat. Carlos Felipe, who's not a knockout threat. Jared Vandera, who's not a knockout threat. Alexei Oleinik, who's not a knockout threat. He was able to take down Tai Tuivasa, but Walt Harris knocked him out and Tom Aspinall knocked him out. I do think Greg Hardy is a knockout threat. So if I was to bet on Spivak, I would absolutely want him to take this fight down to the mat early and often. And if he does, he should absolutely starch Greg Hardy. I think Spivak, I want to say he's like a purple belt in BJJ, so he has some submission ability, but the ground and pound especially, I think he can definitely get Hardy out of there. So we see that Spivak is a decent-sized favorite. He opened up minus 145. He is now minus 215. Greg Hardy opened up plus 125. He's now plus 185. I have absolutely no intention of betting Spivak at this line, but what I do like a little bit more is going to be the fight doesn't go to decision and sitting at minus 190. I think Hardy has an opportunity to finish Spivak early, but if Spivak gets his fight down to the mat at any point in time anyway, I think it'll be over shortly after. So yeah, minus 190, fight doesn't go. I'm kind of shocked that's not like minus 300, minus 350 here.
Yeah, it's I think that's a great way to play it as the fight doesn't go because, the levels on the ground are not even close, and Sergey is a finisher on the ground. The other thing I just want to bring to everybody's attention here is let's look at the wins, right? The average opponent that Greg Hardy beats has a record in the UFC of 1.33 wins and 1.5 losses. So a losing record with less than 3 UFC fights. The guys that Spivak's beaten have a 5.25 win and 2.75 loss record, almost a 2-to-1 win-to-loss ratio in 8 total fights. So way more experience, way better win-loss ratio. Greg Hardy he's crushing cans here at the UFC level when he wins. And whenever he takes a step up in competition, it doesn't go well for him. But Tuivasa is a step up. Tybura is a step up. He's losing to guys like Volkov. These are good fighters. And Sergey Spivak isn't quite on that level, but remember, Hardy lost to Tuivasa and Spivak destroyed Tai Tuivasa. That's one thing we got to keep in mind here is that this guy beat Tai Tuivasa, who right now is probably going to be fighting for a title if he wins one more fight. So let's not underestimate Spivak's ability to be able to get wins over quality UFC competition here.
Yep, definitely for sure. But yeah, give me that fight doesn't go up -190. That's something I'm really looking at. But yeah, Spivak should absolutely win this fight if he fights smart and gets it down to the map. But Hardy is live for a KO against pretty much everybody. The guy hits hard. I do want to bring this up. Alex saying, does Weezy ever win? Weezy, you're on like I think you said like you've won 7 out of your 8 last cards. You're on a like
yeah, it's either 7 out of my last 8 are winning or 8 out of my last 9. So yeah, I win every once in a while.
Exactly. Me and Weezy have been doing pretty good the last couple months, so hopefully we keep it up here as well. We will keep moving on. Alexi screwed that stat. What stat? What stat?
Skewed that stat? Alexi, maybe one of the. It would have been a stat for Spivak because Alexi's the one who fought him. I don't know which stat was he talking about.
I don't know. And Kelly's pretty upset here. You think Cachoeira beat Kim getting outstruck 2-1? People are so upset about that.
Yeah. I mean, that was a close fight. I didn't have a dog in that fight, so to speak. I didn't have any money on it, so I scored it for Kim. I personally scored it for Kim.
Yeah, I picked Kim. I thought she won, but I didn't think it was like a robbery. But who cares? We'll move on to the next fight. Here we have Kevin Holland going against Alex Oliveira. We have Kevin Holland, 29 years old, 6'3" with an 81-inch reach. Alex Oliveira, 34 years old, 5'11" with a 76-inch reach. Holland is going to be coming down a weight class for this one. Holland's going to be 5 years younger. Holland's going to have a 4-inch height advantage, and Holland is going to have a 5-inch reach advantage as well. Holland is 2-2-1, no contest in his last 5 fights, a knockout win against Charlie Ontiveros, a knockout win against Jacare Souza, a decision loss to Derek Brunson, Marvin Vettori, and then also that no contest against Kyle Daukaus with the head clash, and then Daukaus ended up submitting him there, turned into a no contest, and rightfully so. Alex Oliveira, 2-3 in his last 5 fights, a split decision win against Max Griffin, fight that really could have went either way, a decision against Peter Sabata, a submission loss to Rachmanov, submission loss to Randy Brown, and a decision loss to Nico Price. I feel like this is a pretty good spot for Kevin Holland. The tail of tape advantage, much younger, much bigger, more in his prime, 29 years old, whereas Alex Oliveira, he's 34 years old, and he just has not looked good, to me, like the last couple of years. It looks like he's kind of falling off a cliff here on a 3-fight skid now. It's hard to trust Alex Oliveira. The narrative with him, it'd be like, which Oliveira is going to show up, the good Oliveira or the bad Oliveira. And, as of late, it's just been the bad Oliveira, and I don't really see that changing here. I think Holland wins this one pretty convincingly, whether it is a knockout, whether it is a club and sub, whether it is a submission. But I like Holland to win here inside the distance. I just don't see where Alex Oliveira is going to pose many problems. Is he going to outstrike Holland on the feet? I don't think so. Is he going to take down Kevin Holland? Because that's what Marvin Vettori did. That's what Derek Brunson did. There's a clear path there. But when's the last time Alex Oliveira fought a smart game plan? And I just don't know. So even if he did, like, Oliveira's ground game is not the best. He's been submitted like 5 times in his career. Holland is a black belt. So I think for Oliveira, maybe he takes down Holland, but I think that'd be like the only path. And even then, I don't see him having much success. We know that Holland is working on that takedown defense nonstop, as he should be. But again, this is not a Vettori. This is not a Brunson. I think we get a striking fight for the most part. And I think Holland probably, either club and sub or knocks out Oliveira here. Weezy, how do you feel about this one?
Yeah, this is a weird one, man, because, like you say, it's hard to know where the hell Alex Oliveira is at. If he does win this fight, there's going to be a lot of happy kids in Brazil. I mean, a lot of them, because he's got a lot of kids and a lot of mouths to feed. And I don't know if that's the only reason he's still doing this, because it just doesn't, I just remember in the old days, his fights were all super exciting and like back and forth and just wars. And now he's losing to really good competition. Shavkat, Randy Brown, Nico Price, the win over Sabata, the win over Max Griffin by split decision, and Kevin Holland, we can't get too far out over our skis. He beat an old man in Jacare, Charlie Ontiveros, but he's coming down to 170 here. He's going to be the much bigger guy. And even though Alex Oliveira is 5 years older and has been around doing this a much longer time, Kevin Holland's almost as experienced as him. Their cage time as pros is almost identical. Kevin Holland has 14 UFC level fights already, while Oliveira has 20. Both of these guys are diverse finishers, finishing over 50% of their fights by knockout, over 20% by sub. Both of these guys land more significant strikes than they absorb. They both throw with power. They both got good chins. It's just Holland's a little more defensively responsible on the feet. They both spend more than 50% of their fights in control time positions. And I don't think they initiate it that much. Holland has only attempted 22 takedowns in 14 UFC fights. For Alex Oliveira, it's been 83 takedowns over 20 fights. So he's been the more willing wrestler, but we haven't seen him go into that much lately. So, if this is going to be a striking match, I like that 5-inch reach advantage for Holland. He's good with his footwork. He manages range well. And Alex Oliveira isn't exactly like this guy that just marches people down and stays in their face. So I see why this line is wide. When we look at the ratios here and the strength of schedule, it's all pretty close. So, yeah, I like the fact that Holland's 4 inches taller, has a 5-inch reach advantage, is 5 years younger, is hungrier, and he's making this switch down to 170 to, to restart that career and kickstart it again. And I just think that, it'd be surprising if Alex won this fight.
Yeah, Oliveira has 8 takedowns in his last 10 fights. So a lot of those takedowns are like really early in his career.
Yeah. I mean, and we just haven't seen him going to it much. You don't really think of Alex Oliveira as a wrestler, but those numbers are indicative of a wrestler, right? Over 4 takedown attempts per fight, 2.27 takedowns per 15 minutes, 33.72% control time for. And Holland's got that 50% takedown defense. Alex Oliveira's got 64% takedown defense. So, you would think that if either one of these guys felt like grappling, if they don't like how it's going on the feet, that there'd be the opportunity to do that. I just don't know if either one is going to. And if they don't, you got to love the youth, the length, of Holland here. I think he's the more dangerous striker.
Yep, I totally agree. We take a look at the line and we see that Kevin Holland is a huge favorite. Open up minus 200. He's now minus 275. Oliveira open up plus 170. He's now plus 235. I just feel like laying almost minus 300 on Kevin Holland isn't a great long-term strategy. I mean, this is a guy that has dropped the ball as a favorite before. He dropped the ball against Brendan Allen. He dropped the ball against Derek Brunson. He was a favorite. Was he a favorite in the Vettori fight? I know it was pretty close. I don't remember if he was.
Oh, God. I think Vettori was the favorite there because I think Holland had already given up a lot of takedowns there to Brunson, and people thought Vettori would have the same game plan. So, yeah, he might have been.
Yeah, Vettori was a big favorite there. So,
okay.
Yeah, I feel like Holland should win this, but it's hard to trust Holland at this price tag. But I just don't see Oliveira taking him down and really controlling him and doing much with those takedowns.
Yeah, but you're right, dude. Laying minus 250 on a guy in Kevin Holland who, the fight IQ, I'm not entirely sure it's there. I mean, you can just tell by how much shit he talks that he's not thinking of winning. He's thinking of other things besides being technically perfect and executing a game plan. He's out there to fight, and it's completely evident in the way that he is as a human being. This is the kind of guy you can call up on 48 hours notice and say, hey, you want to get in your underwear and fight a trained killer in a cage? Kevin Holland will be there, man. And he's got a chin too. He's got a serious chin. So I hope that chin of his isn't affected now that he's cutting weight down to 170. Yeah. But if it's not, if he still has that chin, man, I think he should win this fight. But boy, oh boy, laying minus 250 on a guy that can pull a stunt like Kevin Holland, man, I don't know if I'd be comfortable doing that.
Yeah, I mean, he almost pulled a couple stunt like in the Mearshart fight, which I thought he could have lost that fight. He pulled a stunt there just about. He almost pulled a stunt Alessio Di Chirico fight. That was a very close fight as well that he should have won cleanly. The Buckley fight, I thought he could have knocked out in round 1. It took him to round 3 because he kept talking to him. The Darren Stewart fight, he almost lost, got taken down 3 times in that one. Yeah, I think Holland should win, but I just don't really like the price tag, honestly. So I might stay away from that one. We will move on, though, to a very intriguing fight. We have Edson Barboza going against Bryce Mitchell. We have Barboza, who is 36 years old, 5'11", 75-inch reach. We have Bryce Mitchell, 27 years old, 5'10", with a 70-inch reach. I feel like this is going to be one of those fights where we have the veteran of Edson Barboza, who's fought the much better competition. He's fought, the much more fights. Has over like double the fights. I feel like it's one of those fights where we have the veteran coming against the up-and-comer and Bryce Mitchell. I feel like people are going to be, very heavily favoring one side here. So I think it's going to be a very interesting one. I'm curious to your thoughts on it, Weezy. But Mitchell, he's going to be 9 years younger. Barboza is going to have a 1-inch height advantage and a 5-inch reach advantage. Barboza, he is 2-3 in his last 5 fights, but as you can see, this guy's fighting some very solid competitions. Lost to Paul Felder, lost to Dan Ige, a win over Makwan Amarikani, win against Shane Burgos, and then a knockout loss to Giga Chikadze. So again, fighting very good competition as of late and in his entire career. Bryce Mitchell, he is 5-0 in his last 5 fights. He made his debut. I want to say, was the Moffitt fight, was that his debut or was that on the Contender Series? I think it was his debut, right?
The debut was actually Tyler Diamond, because that was the final for the Ultimate Fighter.
Okay, so he has the decision against Moffitt, the submission against Sales, which that was the twister, the decision win against Charles Rosa, and the decision win against Andre. The Bryce Mitchell, this guy's young, he's 27 years old. What I noticed about Bryce Mitchell is you see like a huge jump in terms of improvement each time we see this guy step in the cage. Like against Matt Sales, he went in there and just ran through the guy. The next time out, he runs through Charles Rosa, takes him down a ton, controls him for almost 15 minutes in that fight, almost submits him multiple times. A legit grappler in Charles Rosa. And then I thought that might potentially be a fluke. We know Charles Rosa doesn't have the best takedown defense, but it was not a fluke because he went out there and did the same exact thing to Andre Fili, which was very impressive. Now let's see if he can do it against Edson Barboza, which is going to be by far, by a mile, the toughest test of Bryce Mitchell's career. Weezy, this is such a good fight. I'm glad it's on the main card. We have the veteran in Barboza against the young up-and-comer fan favorite in Bryce Mitchell. This fight should be a very good one.
Classic striker versus grappler here, and classic, old lion against the young up-and-comer, who's going to be the dominant one here. We got 32 professional fights for Barboza, 14 for Mitchell. 3 times as much time in the pro cage for Edson Barboza in comparison to Mitchell. 5 times as many UFC-level fights for Barboza in comparison to Mitchell. Barboza and Mitchell both have 64% finish rates, but for Mitchell, it's all by sub. And for Barboza, it's 59% by knockout, 5% by sub. Barboza's been finished in 6 of his 10 pro losses, 4 by knockout, 2 by submission. So here's the thing about Bryce Mitchell. And I think that I would be hard-pressed to find anybody with 5 or more fights in the UFC that could boast this kind of number, Brady. Bryce Mitchell's fights are taking place in control time positions 74% of the time. So as a handicapper, you have to look at those stats. They mean a lot. In a striker versus grappler match, you want to see great strikers are striking 80 to 85% of the time, because that's how you win enough minutes to win a fight. That's how you win enough minutes in a close fight in order to keep the fight where you're most comfortable, right? And Edson Barboza, in a 26-fight UFC sample size, where we know that the guy is a striker first and a grappler second, so people are trying to take him down. Barboza's fights are taking place at striking range exactly 80% of his UFC cage time, 298.17 minutes. So Edson Barboza has been a master of keeping fights where he's most comfortable and he's most dangerous, 80% of the time. Bryce Mitchell is a master of keeping fights where he's most comfortable, 75% of the time. And it's harder to get the fights to grappling range than it is to get it to striking range, because every fight starts on the feet. So we're looking at a fight here where if it's 50% striking, Edson Barboza probably wins, and if it's 80% striking, Bryce Mitchell has no chance. But if it's 20% striking, boy, Edson's going to be in a whole heap of trouble here. So we do see some things that we like here out of Bryce Mitchell. Now, the level of competition is a huge, huge deal here. But 46.67% on his takedowns. That's on a 30 fight or 30 takedown attempt sample size, 14 of 30, 3.26 takedowns for 15 minutes, 2.33 submission attempts for 15 minutes, and 50% control time for, while giving up 23.5% control time against, only 33% takedown defense. But trust me, there aren't going to be a lot of guys trying to take down Bryce Mitchell from here on out. They want to keep the fight standing against this guy. The reason he's got 33% takedown defense is because that's where he wants to fight. So Edson Barboza has fought, beaten, and lost to the much better competition than Bryce Mitchell has here. Is Bryce Mitchell going to be able to make this fight his fight? Is he going to stick to Edson Barboza like glue? Is he not going to strike with him? Because if he's able to do that, and we know that's what the game plan is, he should win this fight. And that's why he's the favorite, Brady. But, boy, you just can't ignore the experience, the takedown defense, the level of competition, and the striking skills of Edson Barboza here. He's terrifying in so many ways that Bryce Mitchell is not terrifying. And when you bring in the experience and the strength of schedule, I can see why people are on the Edson Barboza side here. There's a lot of reasons to like him. And there's also plenty of reasons to think that this is just going to be another day at the office for Bryce Mitchell, that he's going to get takedowns and he's going to suffocate guys on the ground and just make it 15 minutes of hell and defensive grappling for Edson Barboza here. Which side are you on?
Yeah, so initially I thought I'd be on the Barboza side because I went through his entire career, and I told you earlier today, I mean, there's only been two people that have implemented a quote like a Bryce Mitchell game plan, what Bryce Mitchell's going to do, and been successful and won it. There's only been two guys, and those two guys go by the name of Khabib Nurmagomedov, who took him down 4 times. Khabib in that fight was 4 for 13 on takedowns, 30%. And Kevin Lee, back when Kevin Lee was good, Kevin Lee went 4 for 9 on takedowns there. And just looking through his career, like those are the only two guys, Kevin Lee and Khabib Nurmagomedov, who were able to, do what Bryce Mitchell is going to try to do here. So that scares me a little bit. And then I got into the tape of Bryce Mitchell, and I was blown away. Like, this guy's very, very good. And the Charles Rosa, you can call it a fluke a little bit. Matt Sales, kind of the same thing. Sales just got subbed by Jordan Levitt, but doing that to Andre Feely was very impressive to me. Taking him down, he's just relentless with it. And what I also like about Bryce Mitchell, there's a couple things, is the fact that as soon as the fight starts, like 30 seconds in or less, in every single fight I watched, he's going for takedowns. He knows that he's not a good striker. Mm-hmm. He's improving. And he's not going to want to strike here with Barboza, but he knows that. He knows that he's going to fight smart. He's going to get it down to the mat very early, very often. And what I also like about him is he has the gas tank to do that. He has the gas tank to take guys down relentlessly and keep them down. And Barboza, I'm not completely sold about the gas tank, especially in a fight like this. Barboza, he is now 36 years old. Barboza, I went back and watched the Makwan and Murakami fight, which, by the way, he completely destroyed Murakami in that fight, knocked him down like 3 or 4 times. But Makwan was able to take him down once in each and every single round. And I think if Bryce Mitchell gets down Barboza, he can keep him down. And if Barboza does work his way back up, I think he's going right back down. But, at range, Bryce Mitchell is going to be in trouble here. The problem with that is I just don't think it's going to be at range much. I think Bryce Mitchell is going to come in here, take down Barboza, be relentless with it. Barboza is going to tire out as the fight goes on. And I think Bryce Mitchell wins a decision here. But, like you said, I get why people would be on the Barboza side. He has the much, much more experience. He's fought the much, much, much better competition. It's not even comparable. I just think Bryce Mitchell is a guy that is young, 27 years old now. We haven't seen him in like a year or so. Could he have leveled up again? Could he have made a massive jump in improvements like I have been seeing in every single fight? And I'm kind of leaning towards, yeah. So didn't think I'd be picking Mitchell here. Didn't think I'd be liking him, but I actually do like Bryce Mitchell, and I like Bryce Mitchell to win this fight a decent amount. And we take a look at the line, and we see that Bryce Mitchell opened up as a minus 135 favorite. He's now minus 152. And Barboza opened up plus 115. He's now plus 132. I'm really curious to see where this line goes. I kind of expect money to come in on Barboza, but we'll have to see. The fight goes to decision, minus 110. The fight doesn't go to decision, minus 130. Over under set at 2.5 rounds. The over 2.5 -145, and the under 2.5 is +115. What are your thoughts on this fight? What are your thoughts on the line as well?
I'm looking at like the career stats here of Edson Barboza, and when I see that he's lost a fight, in every loss he gets out controlled in time. Every single one, and in every single win he out controls his opponents. And in most of these wins, I'm struggling to find one win. There's one win against Mike Lulo where he had 312 seconds of control time, but every other win, he's got less than 100 seconds of control time, except for Dan Hooker. He had 103. So when you see him losing fights, it's almost always, when he's getting out controlled. And when he's getting out controlled, that means that his opponent is not letting him strike. I think that that's going to be the game plan. I think Bryce is very good at doing what he does well. And when you see 75% of his fights over a 5-fight sample size taking place in control time positions, it's going to be a tough fight, man. And you know how this guy is. He just needs one takedown, and he can make that last for the rest of the round. He's that kind of a grappler. So it's a very frustrating opponent. But Edson's seen this kind of opponent before. He may have lost to Nurmagomedov, and he may have lost to Kevin Lee, but he beat Beneil Dariush.
Yeah.
He beat Danny Castillo. And I mean, look, if you want to talk about a guy in the UFC who had a wrestling heavy game plan and stuck to it every fucking time, it was Danny Castillo. Danny Castillo was a tough out, and he's got to win via split decision over Danny Castillo. Majority decision. So yeah, he can handle this kind of game plan. Bryce has got his hands full. This is a step up. But we do know that Bryce is so good at what he does well that this is a classic striker versus grappler matchup. And I got a feeling it'll be one of the more hotly contested fights out there this week.
Definitely. But it's a good fight. Probably one of my more favorite fights on the entire card. It should be a good one for sure. Any thoughts on the fight goes or fight doesn't go?
I would lean towards fight goes here just because, Mitchell, even if he loses the fight, I think he's going to be just sticking to Edson Barboza the entire time. And, and those Arkansas boys, they don't quit on nobody. So, I don't see anybody. I think this one will probably go the distance.
Definitely. So we'll move on. We have the co-main event. This fight was supposed to be on that, I think, the Walker Hill card. But visa issues pushed it back to this card, and I'm completely fine with it. Co-main event here, 5 rounds, which I think 5 rounds is something to mention for this fight in specific. But we have Rafael dos Anjos going against Rafael Fiziev. We have RDA, who's 37 years old, 5'8" with a 70-inch reach. Fiziev, he is 28 years old, 5'8" with a 71-inch reach. So yeah, RDA definitely getting up there now, 37 years old. Fiziev is going to be 9 years younger, same height, and Fiziev is going to have a 1-inch reach advantage. We take a look at their last few fights. RDA had a decision loss to Kamaru Usman. He had a submission win against Kevin Lee, a decision loss to Leon Edwards and Michael Chiesa, and then a decision win against Paul Felder. As far as Rafael Fiziev, he is 5-0 in his last 5 fights, a decision win against Alex White, a decision win against Mark Diakese, a knockout win against Onato Moicano, a decision win against Bobby Green, and a knockout win against Brad Riddell. This is a very interesting fight. And like I said, RDA is definitely getting up there in age. He is past his prime. 37 years old at 155 is not the best look in the world. Fiziev, I'm very impressed with the guy. I think a couple things to mention is going to be, for one, the takedown defense. This guy is very strong, 95% takedown defense on paper. His striking is obviously very, very good, and he's able to keep his fight standing, and he has a lot of success in terms of the striking. The thing that scares me about Fiziev here, and I do like him in this fight, and I like him a decent amount. The thing that scares me, though, is that this is a 5-round fight for Fiziev. And why that scares me is because you take a look at not just the Bobby Green fight, because Fiziev does slow down as that fight goes on. Bobby Green is able to outland Fiziev in that 3rd round, 66-43. Not only the Fiziev fight, but even in like the Diakese fight, that 3rd round was kind of close. Diakese lands 29 strikes, and then Fiziev lands 32. We see that Fiziev slows down a little bit in that fight. As far as the Alex White fight, we see in that 3rd round that Alex White outlands Fiziev, actually wins that 3rd round on a judge's scorecard, outlands him 27-21. but Fiziev's able to rack up 51 seconds of control. And then even the Riddell fight, he did look better. I will say that. But I guess my concern is, what is he going to look like in this third round? What's he going to look like in the fourth round? And what's he going to look like in the fifth round if he does not finish RDA? So, yeah, I like Fiziev here. I think he's going to be able to keep this standing. And on the feet, I do favor Fiziev there. It's just, what's this fight going to look like in that third, fourth, and fifth round where we have seen Fiziev slow down in the past. So interesting fight, but I do lean with the 9 years of age, younger Fiziev here, the better striker, great takedown defense. But the cardio is the one thing that, would worry me in this fight. Weezy, what do you think about this one?
Yeah, it's really, it's a hard fight to cap because we've got a 37-year-old Rafael dos Anjos who hasn't fought in a long time. I don't think since 2020 has he fought. And then, a huge experience advantage here for dos Anjos, a massive strength of schedule advantage here for dos Anjos. And he's the way better grappler here. And then let's face it, his striking's damn good too. Where is Fiziev better other than the fact that he's younger and he's got a much better technical striking pedigree? I don't know, and here's the other thing too. Fiziev, 95% takedown defense. So he's done the one thing that you want any great striker to do, keep the fight standing. And look at the numbers. 90% of his fights are taking place at striking range, and he's showing 95% takedown defense. That's all well and good, but in Rafael dos Anjos, we've got a guy in 30 UFC fights, has attempted 147 takedowns and gotten 55 of them. Over a massive sample size, he's controlling his opponents about 26% of the time and being controlled about 23% of the time. Dos Anjos is a guy that can push a pace, dude. And this being a 5-round fight, this being a situation where we've got a guy who in a 30-fight sample size is attempting 5 takedown attempts per fight, but in a lot of these fights, he's fighting guys that you would never even dream of trying to take down. So you got certain situations here where Dos Anjos is attempting 15, 20 takedowns in a fight. And that's the kind of fight that Fiziev is going to see. And Fiziev gets tired at striking range, in a 3-round fight. So the biggest question to me here is, which Rafael dos Anjos do we have? We got a 37-year-old man here who's been over 500 minutes in the pro cage and over 400 minutes in the UFC cage here. So does he have one more 5-round war left in him? Because he's going to be facing one of the best strikers in the division. He's going to have to push a very heavy pace here in order to win minutes on the ground, which is the most likely pace where he would win minutes against somebody like Rafael Fiziev. Does he have the energy left at 37 to push that pace for 5 rounds? Can he break Fiziev? Because this is one thing that all of us have been saying for a long time now, Brady. What happens when Fiziev fights 5 rounds? And even then, what happens when he fights a guy like Dos Anjos that has fought probably 15 UFC fights that have been 5 rounds? And has fought former champions, beaten former champions, been a champion, been in that deep water, knows what it's like to be in the 4th round or the 5th round of a title fight. There's a lot of unanswered questions here with Rafael Fiziev, and there's a lot of unanswered questions here with what does Dos Anjos have left in the tank here. It's got me saying I think that I'm going to stay away, but boy, I think Rafael Dos Anjos is really live here.
Yeah, if I'm laying minus 250 on Rafael Fiziev, I'm wanting him to knock out RDA. I don't want this to go to the 3rd round, the 4th round. I want him to knock out RDA. And RDA has been knocked out like 2 times in the last 15 years. I think got knocked out by Eddie Alvarez, I want to say like 2015 or 2016. And they got knocked out by like Jeremy Stevens like 2008. Off the top of my head, those are the 2 knockout losses from him. So he's tough. He doesn't get knocked out easily. He had a really good performance against Paul Felder, but like you said, that was what, back in 2020, you said?
I don't think he's, because I know he wasn't in my database, and that means that he had to have fought before November of 2020.
Gonna double check here, but yeah, RDA fought and it was 1 year and 3 months ago.
Okay, so yeah, right at the end of 2020 then.
Yep, for sure.
Okay, yeah.
So yeah, I'll put it like this. This is kind of like the Giga fight, and it was weird because in the Calvin Kattar breakdown, I was like, man, if this was a 3-round fight against him and Kattar, like it's Giga all day for me. But it was a 5-round fight, so I was a little bit iffy on it. But it ended up that Giga lost like every round of that fight. This is kind of the same thing. Like if this was a 3-round fight, yeah, I really like Fiziev. I probably still wouldn't lay the -250, but I do like him. I think he'd have the takedown defense to keep this on the feet, and I really do like his striking. RDA's 37 years old, hasn't fought in a while. Yeah, I like Fiziev in this 3-round fight, but it being 5 rounds, it really, really puts me off.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to trust Fiziev, and I mean, we remember what Bobby Green did to him. We remember what Alex White had success. He's lost 3rd rounds to marginal fighters. Rafael dos Anjos is not a marginal fighter. He's never been on the margins of anything in the UFC. He's great. He's elite. He's a Hall of Famer, and he's still fighting at a high level. So unless he comes off that level now, that's something we're going to have to wait and see on Saturday. But in terms of a complete mixed martial arts skill set, experience, level of competition, this is Rafael dos Anjos. It's just that, Fiziev's striking is next level, and we don't know what's left in the tank for Rafi. We don't know what the motivation is. We don't know how healthy he is. There's a lot of unanswered questions here.
Yeah, it's a sketchy fight. It's a fight that I will enjoy watching. I will really much enjoy watching. It's a great co-main event, a great 5-round co-main event that we were supposed to see a couple weeks ago. I'll enjoy watching it, but I just can't bet this fight. We have Fiziev opening up -241. He is now -244, and RDA opening up +206, and he is currently +209. I'm definitely gonna pick Fiziev to win. I just don't like that price. I really hate it. I really hate the -244. I think it probably should be closer. The over/under set at 3.5 rounds. Over 3.5 is -185. The under 3.5 +155. So it's juiced to the over. So the odds makers are saying this is probably going over that 3.5 round mark. But Fiziev is a pretty big favorite. So yeah, there's just question marks for me on both sides. Fiziev, what does it look like in rounds 3, 4, and 5? Because like you said, we've seen in 3-round fights he slows down, in fights where guys aren't really trying to take him down. So yeah, it's sketchy. The fight goes -160. Fight doesn't go +120. Really no interest in any time props or really anything in this fight. But I will enjoy watching this. Anything for you, Weezy?
Yeah, I'm going to enjoy watching it, and I might take a poke at Dos Anjos here, just because I think if he wins minutes in the wrestling, especially early, that he could break Fiziev. Who knows, man?
Yeah, if Alex White can do it,
yeah,
RDA might be able to do it. We'll have to see.
Yeah,
yeah, weird, sketchy fight, but a good one. Such a good fight. But I say we do move on to the main event here. Just a reminder, me and Uncle Weezy will be on the new MMA Engine channel, breaking this down, doing a main event deep dive, going probably 30 to 45 minutes deep into this fight. So go check us out there tomorrow around 5:15 p.m. Eastern time. But right now we're going to get into it. We have Colby Covington, Jorge Masvidal. Probably my favorite fight in a while. Like this fight, I've been looking forward to since I first heard it was announced. I like both these guys a ton. We have Colby Covington, 34 years old, 5'11" with a 72-inch reach. Jorge Masvidal, he is 37 years old, 5'11" with a 74-inch reach. So we do see that Masvidal's 37 years old, so he's definitely getting up there in age. Colby's still 34 with a 3-year age gap there. And then also Masvidal is going to have a 74-inch reach advantage. We'll take a look at the last few fights here. Colby Covington 3-2 in his last 5. A win against RDA by decision, win against Lawler by decision, knockout loss to Kamaru Usman, and then a knockout win against Tyron Woodley, and then decision loss to Kamaru Usman. Jorge Masvidal 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Darren Till knockout, Ben Askren knockout, Nate Diaz knockout, and then a loss to Kamaru Usman by both decision and knockout. So both guys in their last 5 fights are 3-2, and both guys in their last 5 fights have lost to Kamaru Usman once by decision and once by knockout. Yeah, this is a great fight. I think it's a very tough fight for Jorge Masvidal here, honestly. I mean, Colby Covington is a guy that can push a very heavy pace for 25 minutes, no problem. He's going to come forward the entire fight, wrestling, mixing in the takedowns, controlling his opponent against the cage. I think it's going to be a very tough fight for Jorge Masvidal here to especially win minutes. So I get why Colby's a big favorite. I think for Masvidal to win, he's going to have to knock out Colby Covington, which of course it's possible. This is MMA, but what I really like about Colby, you take a look in a lot of his fights, it's just nonstop from the get-go. Like when the fight starts, he's on you right away. He's pressuring with strikes. He's taking you down. If you get back up, guess what? You're going right back down. Rinse and repeat until you get tired. And then, Colby kind of grows into the fight. He gets more comfortable on the feet. You're tired. He starts to let off his punches more. And he just does that for 25 minutes. It's insane. And, many guys cannot do that. And many guys cannot keep up with it. And I don't really expect Masvidal to do here as well. I think Masvidal, for him to win, it's going to have to be like an early knockout, but I think Colby is going to fight smart. He always does. He's going to take him down, control him, hold him against the cage, kind of like Kamaru Usman, Jorge Masvidal #1, where Jorge did come in on short notice, but we saw Masvidal or Usman was able to take him down multiple times, hold him against the cage. Masvidal tired out a little bit. I think it's going to kind of look a little bit like that. But this is a great fight, a lot of bad blood. I cannot wait for the press conference. The press conference is going to be phenomenal. Big fan of both guys. I just think it's a very tough matchup for George Masvidal here. So, Weezy, what do you think about this awesome main event?
Yeah, great main event, great press conferences, great trash talk, great rivalry, great fighters, great veterans. Credit to the sport, both of them. This is a great main event. This is, I think, what both of these guys have wanted. Let's not forget that Masvidal had a fight. I believe it was against Gilbert Burns. He pulled out with an injury, and then 3 weeks later, this fight was made. This is the big money fight. And if you're going to fight Colby Covington, you need to be 100% in. You know the kind of game plan that guy brings. You can't just kind of like train half-ass if you're going to be fighting Colby Covington. And I don't know where Jorge Masvidal is at right now. I really don't. He's 37 years old, 50 professional fights, Brady, 15 professional losses over his career, 577 minutes in the pro cage. And this guy's a multimillionaire. So I don't know what his motivation is here. I know he hates Colby Covington, but the fact that I know Colby hates Jorge, the way that I would fight somebody that I hated if it were Jorge and I was Colby would be to fight exactly the same way Colby has always fought, which is the most maddening way to be fought at this level, is just to be blanketed, to not be able to breathe, to be taken down over and over and over again, to never get to plant your feet and throw a solid punch, and just have a guy who could run hundreds of miles just drown you. If Jorge Masvidal isn't 100% in, he's going to get killed here. I need to know how hard this guy's training, because if it's not 100%, man, Colby's going to walk away with this one. It's just such a horrible, horrible matchup. Look, for every 1 second of control time that Colby Covington gives up, he gets 22. He's controlling his opponents at a 22-to-1 ratio. When a guy, shoots 10 takedown attempts in a single fight, Brady, that's a lot. When a guy shoots 131 takedown attempts in 14 fights, that means he's shooting a crazy amount of takedowns in every single fight. Other than the Usman fight the first time around, Colby Covington is double-digit takedown attempts in every single fight. And it doesn't matter how many attempts he gets, because eventually he's getting you to the ground, and then you're going to wear him. You're going to carry his weight. He's going to beat on you, and it's just a bad matchup. Masvidal has faced 101 takedown attempts in 20 fights. He's defended 74 of them. He has a 73% takedown defense, and he's allowed 21% control time. But Colby Covington has gotten 44% control time over a 14-fight sample size. He wins minutes. He's beating the better competition. He's fighting the better competition, and he's losing to the better competition. Jorge better bring his lunch pail, man, because he's in for a long night on Saturday, man. And if he's not 100% committed to this fight, it's gonna be one-sided.
Yeah, I think Journeyman George is in for a very long night. It's just a tough matchup. Of course, could he knock out Colby? Yeah, he could. I mean, Masvidal has done it before, and it could happen
Mm-hmm.
here. But I just don't think Colby's going to give him any opportunities. I mean, like I said early on, Colby's smart. He's going to go for takedowns right away. Just because he hates Masvidal, he's not going to go out there and strike with him for 25 minutes. If he did that, yeah, he probably loses. But he's not going to do that. Like you said, 131 takedown attempts. He's going to go for
That's commitment, Brady.
Yeah.
That's commitment to wrestling. 131 takedown attempts in 14 fights. I mean, what more could you ask for? If you're looking for somebody to be dominant in the grappling exchanges, Colby Covington is your huckleberry, man. The guy lives and breathes wrestling, and he brings that game plan every single time to the cage. And it looks like Brady's gone, so it's just me, and you get to watch me tie my long, lustrous hair back. But you guys, you've been hanging out with us for 2.5 hours here. And
I'm back.
Like well, I'm still talking,
okay,
but yeah, man, we got 13 fights on this card. The main card is crazy. Every one of these fights is fantastic, and we get to finish with a main event that has two high-level veterans who hate each other's guts, a backstory, former training partners, former friends, former roommates. And then Colby Covington is taking pictures with Jorge's ex-wife. and then Jorge's messaging Colby's sister on Instagram. I mean, like this, it just doesn't get any better than this. This is a great way to end one of the great cards of the year, of the decade so far. We are very blessed, and I love my job being able to talk about this sport and this card, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Great card. Only one crappy fight, that Negan Mariana, Kennedy and Nzechukwu fight.
Modern day Three Stooges remake we got coming on that one.
We need either Chris Tione, Vasyl Kisayev could be in there.
Or Keith Peterson could be Mo.
I like that as well.
How awesome would that be?
So I mean, it's a great card. Going from last week's card, which was not the best card, and the week before that was not the best card in terms of name value, but this is a card where we have 13 fights. We were supposed to have 14 with Manon Fiora, which would have been a phenomenal fight, but we have 12 fights that are very, very good, and one fight that is so bad that it's probably going to be good as well. So yeah, this card is good, Weezy. I'm looking forward to it. But we went through all the fights. Thank you all so much for hanging out. Had a great amount of people in here. If you all could smash the like button, I do want to say thank you all for hanging out and continuing to hang out with us, because last week we did break a record in terms of the views for Stat Diggers. I think we closed around 6,600, which is huge. It was record breaking, and hopefully we can break the record once more with a big card like this. To help us with that, smash the like button. It really does help us out. Weezy, I'll kick it to you. Let the people know where they can find you. Big card. I'm assuming you're going to have a lot of big plans for this week in terms of content creation.
Yeah, for sure, man. You can find me on my YouTube channel, which is called Uncle Weezy. I do balls deep breakdowns of fights, and I will be doing a full card breakdown for UFC 272 Tuesday night, 10 o'clock Central Time. You can find me on Post Sports Radio every Sunday for Stat Diggers, every Wednesday for the DFS show. And you can find me on the MMA Engine YouTube channel. I'll be making my debut there tomorrow with Brady for a main event breakdown, 5:15 Central Time. I'll also be doing a balls deep breakdown on that channel at 10 o'clock Central Time. So with a week like this, I am not going to be resting much. I'm going to be putting out a ton of content. I'd like to thank each and every one of you guys for spending your Sunday night with us. And I cannot wait to stack cash tickets like flapjacks for UFC 272, Brady.
Let's do it. Yeah, guys, thanks again for hanging out. You can follow me on Twitter, DFS_numbers, Instagram, DFS by the numbers. My full card breakdown and prediction video will be out sometime tomorrow. And then, like Weezy said, I'm also going live with Weezy on the new MMA Engine YouTube channel, breaking down this one main event, going deep into it. Live streams Friday and Saturday, so make sure you come over, subscribe there. And yeah, again, leave a like on the way out, subscribe. Appreciate you hanging out. The chat was on fire today. It was 90% Cachoeira Kim, but I'll take anything I can get. Thank you for hanging out, participating. I really do appreciate that. That's about it, guys. Anything else, Weezy, or should we head out of here?
Let's head out of here, man. I got a dog that's begging me for a walk right now, man.
There we go. And I still haven't ate dinner. So yeah, guys, that's about it. Leave a like and good luck for UFC 272. Let's keep making money. See you guys.